Give me a level.
It appears to be
There
okay.
you go, yeah. All right. He checked his mic. Looks good. Okay.
Now, are
We
we
are
all going
rolling.
to talk like this week?
Yes,
or
we
we
are.
actually
It's going to be
With his new brainy specs.
public radio.
Well, you do have new specs, don't you?
I do.
I didn't notice.
That's why we
My
were talking about the
bifocals.
bifocals.
We talked about that last week. I didn't realize those were they. They're lineless.
These are lineless bifocals. And
I wish you could see this out there in Radio Land, because he's very snazzy looking.
I can see the keyboard now,
They're
too.
very Buddy Holly.
They are very Buddy Holly. They're thick, black George Lucas. If George Lucas wore square bifocals.
Will you be my Mary Tyler Moore?
Absolutely. Can I throw my hat in the air?
Traveling the Vortex.
We join the Doctor as he travels the vortex and landed at episode number 38. And resistance is exhausting.
Ooh, good one.
I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
Laughing at our own jokes.
Yes.
Somebody has to.
I have to say, I give some props to Alex for my opening this week.
Good job, Alex.
He
Sean's buzzing.
his feedback subject line was that, and that made me think, oh, that would be a great open.
That's good.
Because I remembered from the episode.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you,
Good
Alex.
job, Alex. How was your guys' week?
Good.
How was your weekend? Right.
It's good.
I spent 7 hours at the book sale this weekend.
And he has lots of books to show
I do
for
have a lot
it,
of
too.
books. We have the Friends of the Public Library book sale is going on this weekend, and I went down and bought a lot of used books, which I didn't need. I don't have the space for them, and I won't get to read them anytime soon. But
Two
I
full
did buy
brown
them.
shopping bags full of hardback books that look like they were probably very difficult to carry.
They were heavy, and that's just mine.
Mel
That doesn't
struggled.
include that doesn't include Mel's or Jesse's, which they both wound up with a ton of books as well.
I only got one bag full.
Here's the kicker. My first purchase came to, it was $33, and so I run through my wallet, and because the first day they were $2 a hardback, so I spent $33, and so I gave her a 50 and 3 ones, and the woman went and she put the money in the drawer and got change and handed me a 50. I said, okay, there you go. And I got to be honest,
$3 worth of books.
for a split second, I was like, take the money and run, take the money and run. The little devil's standing there going, go, go, go. And then the angel showed up and he's like, dude, it's for the library. Chrissy would be so disappointed in you. So I handed the money back and said, no, I only get 20 back. So I was good.
Aw.
But I almost got $33 worth of books for
$3.
$3.
Yeah. Wow.
But no, it went to the library, so it's for a good cause. If I had been anywhere else, I probably would have succumbed to the temptation.
Yeah.
So got
Because
a lot of good
that's
stuff.
just how evil you are.
I am fairly evil. No Doctor Who, unfortunately. I looked.
Did you? There wasn't
Absolutely
any-
none.
We printed off the map online, and I mean, Patton invading was the Philippines? Is that where he went?
I don't know.
No, he was
Sure.
I don't know. It's American history.
MacArthur invaded the
MacArthur,
Philippines.
okay.
Patton invaded somewhere else. MacArthur invading the Philippines could not have drawn up a more perfect battle plan than what we had for covering this book sale. I mean, we had one person checking hardbacks and one person checking fiction and one person checking kids, because that's what Mel reads a lot of. She likes the unicorns and dragons, and they just happen to wind up being in the kids section most of the time. And we split and conquered, and they came back and was like, well, we kind of are okay. What do you got? And I've already got like 6 bags of books because, of course, I tackled fiction. And it's like, get over here and help. But no Dr.
Sarah
Seuss.
and I just wandered around looking at everything, and yeah, I like that.
That's what I kind of do. I just kind of hit every table as I go.
I hit
This
all the
looks
fiction
cool.
tables and didn't
This
really
looks
worry
cool.
about everything else.
This looks cool.
I replaced one paperback for a hardback first edition, which was a nice find.
What'd you do with the paperback?
Gave it to my mother.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you either do that or you turn it back in the library and they can
that's
sell
what I was
it
going to
again.
do. And I got one book that I wasn't sure if I had or not. It turns out I didn't, and if I did, I would have just turned it around and
Gave it back to the library.
Isn't that
Yeah.
wonderful when you go through all that and you buy something and then you get home and you're kind of like, ooh, did I? And then you didn't. And It's
Yeah.
like, yes!
Sean was jumping for joy tonight because he was going through his bag and realized, okay, do I have that one? No, I don't. I have that one? No, I don't. Do I have that one? No, I don't. Score!
At my age, the memory becomes suspect.
Well, I have to start taking lists with me when I go to like DVD stores or book sales or anything.
that's why I have my inventory software on my phone
Braggy,
for Blu-rays.
braggy. We need a cough
Speaking
button for
of
you.
Blu-ray, I do need a cough. I've got a tickle that I just can't seem to get rid of. I apologize. Speaking
Sorry,
of
I'll stop tickling
Blu-rays,
Speaking of
speaking of
Blu-rays.
Blu-rays, the big news this week.
What's the big news this week, Sean?
Sean's
I'm setting you up. I know what it is. Tell the
Oh, okay.
listeners what the big news is.
Well, a long time ago,
that didn't work very
He
in a
well.
looked at me
galaxy
like,
far, far
what
away.
are you kidding me?
I thought for sure you'd be all over this. I lobbed it up
No,
there. I thought you did it out
I
of the park.
tweeted the other night when we were doing Friday Night Who that I got interrupted and had to look at the nice, pretty packaging of the box.
Which we then opened.
We did.
And violated.
Watched. I didn't go home until 4 o'clock in the morning. I walk in the door after like 6 beers, and I'm tired. I'm falling to bed. Holly wakes up and says, "Wow, you're late." And yeah, we watched Star Wars. Well, not all of it, but.
And she just rolled her eyes and rolled
No,
back over.
I don't know. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure she heard me say we watched Star Wars. She was already back asleep by that time.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, they released Star Wars on Blu-ray, and I bought it. That's the big news this week.
We saw Sarah's parents on Saturday, and they were like, "So, how was Who last night?" Sarah said, "It was all right. Not as long as the Star Wars that followed." It's like we didn't watch that much Star Wars.
That's
Probably
the-
as much as Who.
No.
Yeah.
Now, let me throw this question
You
out there.
got
For
home
the
After
at
listeners.
watching all of the deleted scenes that we watched last night, yeah.
Here's the question for the
Fighting with
listeners. Star Wars, arguably greatest. I'm not going to say greatest trilogy of all time because I think it's Back to the Future, but arguably one of the top trilogies of all time.
Top sagas.
Top sagas, we'll say that.
it is the top.
It's the top saga of all time.
Yeah.
Rivals,
It's the top trilogy of all time too. But
don't go there, Glenn.
I'm going there.
Don't rag on my Back to the
going
Future,
there.
Glenn.
Back to the Future is a great film. It's a great series, great set, but there's nothing top Star Wars. You know that. I'm just such a huge Star Wars fan. I couldn't put anything ahead of Star Wars. That doesn't happen. Nothing.
So anyway,
He got
Star
so quiet
Wars.
and so serious over that.
You notice how quiet he's talking this week? I think we made fun of him last week for being his radio voice, and this week he's all down.
See, but I'm not down here talking like I was last week.
No, you're just being very quiet.
I listened back to the show last week. I wasn't talking as deep as you guys thought I was.
No, you're hearing it wrong. Anyway, so Star Wars comes out on Blu-ray. It's the most pristine, technologically advanced print ever. What would be the first thing that you would pop in and watch? Or if you bought it, what was the first thing you popped in and watched? Me? What do? I'm popping in Star Wars. I'm going to watch something explode in
Well, I
Blu-ray.
knew
you know,
put in A New Hope,
that would be it.
No,
what does
put
Glenn
in
want to
Empire.
watch? Glenn wants to watch deleted scenes.
Heck yeah, because I've seen all that other stuff.
No. First, he
I haven't
wants to
seen
watch
it as pristine, but I'm going to
the
sit down
CGI
and watch
Yoda
the
from
movies.
Phantom Menace.
I did. That was the first thing I wanted to see was CGI Yoda.
And then he wanted to watch deleted scenes.
Because there were deleted scenes on there that, even though half of them I had seen on YouTube or the Behind the Magic CD-ROM disc that came out 10, 15 years ago, there were still scenes in there that I had never seen before. Actually, the first thing we watched was the archive fly-through.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, that was true.
That was an accident, but that
pretty
was cool.
Yeah.
So-
But no, I want to see stuff I haven't seen. That's why you get the Blu-ray edition, because they finally added stuff on there that they should have put on the DVDs years ago.
Yes, agreed.
And it's still missing the holiday special. Although, did you hear? You know what the Easter egg is, don't you?
No.
Should I make you look for it, or should you?
No, just tell me, 'cause
I'm just
I don't
gonna
have
tell
time
you.
to
You have to
search.
press 1138 on the THS logo.
You know what it is?
No.
I'm talking holiday special, so it's not the holiday special, but
The Boba Fett animated
it is
segment.
the Boba Fett animated.
Really?
Steve Hilton actually tweeted that.
Way to go,
Or not
Steve!
tweeted Facebook, and I went, "What? Awesome!" So at least there's the best part of the holiday specials on there.
Because I was really hoping the Easter
And-
egg would be, what's her name singing?
Carrie Fisher.
No, not Carrie Fisher.
Oh. You don't want her singing the Life
B.
Day.
Arthur.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would have been cool, too. No, Carrie singing the Life Day song to the Star Wars thing.
Star
I
Wars.
love
nothing but Star
That's
Wars.
Bill Murray.
That's on there.
Is it on there?
I am a
Well, I guess in
champion-
the spoof section.
I am a champion of the holiday special. I know it's corny. I know it's cheesy. I know it's dumb, and it doesn't really fit in the canon of Star Wars. But it's something that exists, and it's something from my childhood. It's something that I went home and ate dinner and sit down in front of the television and waited 20 minutes for some stupid news program and watched on CBS when it aired the very first time and the only time it ever aired in 1978. And I sat down and watched, and it was the coolest thing when you're a kid, because when you're 6 years old, those things are awesome.
Oh,
and it was
yeah.
very similar to a variety show, which I kind of liked at the time, because my parents watched, Donnie and Marie and those kind of things that were all variety shows. And it's in that style, but then there's a Star Wars story that you've never seen before built around this thing. And you get to see Wookiees that and throughout
including
the entire
Chewbacca's son, Lumpy.
That's the awesome thing. Is that Lumpy,
Is
Itchy,
the awesome
and
thing?
Lumpy, Itchy, and what was the wife's name?
Betty.
Scratchy?
No, it starts with an M. Anyway,
Smurfy.
no.
Mombasa?
But there's this really, really cool story, and you get to see other Wookiees besides Chewbacca, and you get to see stormtroopers, and you get to see Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia and all these different, and Darth Vader, and I mean, it's just.
I think Lynn's got off the reservation.
Oh my God, it was so cool. Have you seen it?
I've not seen
it.
Friday Night Who? We're watching Star Wars Holiday Special.
I'm bringing my bootleg, since that's the only way you can. It's available right now.
It's funny you mentioned that, because last night I rewatched
Oh my
the
God.
Weird Al White and Nerdy music video.
Yeah.
You guys seen that?
Yeah.
Where he's in
Dude.
where he's in the alley and he's like, look, he's doing drugs, but it's the Star Wars holiday special.
Instead of drugs, it's bootleg videos, and he gets the holiday special. It's so cool, and it needs to be there. And I don't care how embarrassed Lucas is. He feels like he's sold out, and he jumped on the. I mean, he's sold out in commercial.
I'm sorry. Did you say sell out and George Lucas in the same sentence?
I know. Back in the day, he thought he sold out and did these right, and he thinks it's cheesy and doesn't like it. And you don't have to admit that it's canon, George, but all you have to do is release it for those of us that have fond memories of the dang thing.
If Family Guy can do Star Wars,
I know. I mean,
why not release this?
I just watched It's a Trap last night for the first time.
Oh, that's great.
It's just sad. No, it's
not as good as the first one, but it was still
it's
good.
not as good the first two. And it's
I like
funny
it better than
because the
something
crawl comes
else.
up and Seth MacFarlane is basically apologizing for it. And I thought, oh, that's funny. That's hilarious. He's making a joke about how they just kind of went. It says in the opening, but Fox made a lot of money off the first two, and they felt we needed to do it. We were going to pass on it, so please forgive us. It rambles on. It's hilarious. And I thought, oh, that's funny. That's funny. And then as I watched it, I don't know, maybe I was tainted by that, but as I watched it, I could tell that they were phoning it in.
Yeah,
it's not good. There's not a lot of. There's a cough again. There's not a lot of good stuff. There's not a lot of jokes, and it really falls flat. So I was disappointed by it, but there's still
all of them.
Yeah.
There are moments that are very, very enjoyable,
none
but
will be as
none of
good
them are
as
as good as the first
Blue
one.
Harvest, and the something Dark Side was really good too. It had a lot of great moments.
I didn't like Dark Side
I don't
as
think
well.
they phoned in. I
did
just don't
phone
think
it
they
in.
had as much that they.
They didn't have the oomph. They didn't want to do it. You could tell that they didn't want to do it. That they were throwing. In fact, there was
Maybe
jokes
some of
just
the-
thrown in there for jokes to be thrown in there.
Maybe
They
some of
weren't
the
even-
writers, but I remember seeing an interview with Seth MacFarlane after Blue Harvest, just in the beginning stages before they even released it. And he was like, "We would love to do."
Well, they said
other
it
two.
said in the thing that they were excited about doing that, but then the jokes had run out, and there wasn't anything to do. And so, I mean, I thought it was part of the joke when they did the crawl, and then when I watched the rest of the episode, then I realized it wasn't a joke. He was being brutally honest.
Here's where it fell down. The minute you introduce the giant chicken as Boba Fett in something Dark Side, when they get to It's a Trap, and he's fighting him on the skiff, that needed to be a 6-hour knockdown, drag-out fight.
It didn't need to be 6 hours.
No, it did.
It should have been the big chunk of the episode.
It should have been
I agree.
Peter versus the chicken, and then at the very end of that fight, everybody has left Tatooine, and he's still standing there going, "What the heck?" And we cut to the Death Star exploding.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
That should have been it.
That would have been awesome. I would have loved that. That would have worked for me, but. I mean, that would have been in the tradition of... We're so far off the pace here. But back to the holiday special.
not
it needs to be
completely.
released in some form or fashion, and this is my plea to George Lucas, who I know listens to this podcast, that needs to be released in some way, and I'm so disappointed that it didn't end up on the Blu-rays, and I was so hopeful for it. But
You want to see me tie this around back to Doctor Who?
yes, I do.
I have a quick note before you do that. I did go back and watch... I fast-forwarded through most of it because I'd seen a good chunk of it. The spoofs.
Oh, yeah.
That's on. There's 90 minutes of Star Wars spoofs, which I had always talked about. We had talked about it at one point.
Well, don't you remember I
somebody
told you...
needs to do that.
Remember I told you I saw a good chunk of those at Celebration 2 when I went, They had a room, and that's what it was. It was specifically dedicated for all these fan film spoof films that they had done, and that's all it was.
Films?
They're not all fan
Wicket,
films.
Is the Wicket one on there where they actually shot while they were filming?
No.
Return of the Jedi, which I'm surprised.
That
because
surprised
one
me
aired
that
in
wasn't on there. The Energizer Bunny commercial where the lightsaber,
Yeah.
the batteries in Vader's saber burn out, that was not on there.
Oh,
I was
well, that might
really
have been a
surprised,
licensing
but
issue,
it could have been. There was a bunch of other ones that were on there, Disney-related stuff, which
Well,
kind of shocked me. That
I'm
they got
not surprised.
No,
they got clearance
they've got
on some
real
of that.
good. No, but they've got a real good rapport with Lucas because
Okay,
they've
how
got.
I
suppose they've got the-
they've got a big chunk of theme park there
Yeah.
that's Star Wars.
But
now.
the Saga Begins, the Weird Al videos on there.
nice.
There were some fan films. There were
Yoda's
some,
on there too, right? The Yoda,
No,
Yoda, Yoda. Oh,
well,
it's not.
he never did a video for Yoda.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Just live
that's right.
performances.
Just- yeah, that's right.
But I mean, there was a bunch of stuff on a ton of Saturday Night Live, a ton of Family Guy, a ton of Robot Chicken. So there's stuff on there, and it was good. It's definitely, if you haven't bought Star Wars on Blu-ray yet, I'll recommend it. It's a and I can't believe I'm saying that, but because I was wavering, I was so I don't have the money, I'm not going to buy it. I don't need it. And then it came out, and I was like, I gotta have this. Must
I
own.
was jonesing Thursday night.
Oh, I was jonesing
It was
hard.
bouncing
all
up
his,
and down.
all his posts all day Friday was like, okay, I've wavered. I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go get this, and then you got a good deal.
Now you can tie it back into Doctor Who. Go.
Tying it back to In the Doctor Who, in Blue Harvest, when they jump to hyperspace.
Yeah, it's the
Vortex and Tom
It
Baker.
is the Vortex in Tom Baker's face, which is
Bam.
the best joke, with possible exception of the couch, in that entire.
All right, let's move along, guys. We've been talking way too much Star
there-
Wars.
there
This is a Doctor Who podcast.
There is
for
also
crying
the
out
robot
loud.
chicken joke. That they, it wasn't in the Star Wars episode. It was just a random quick sketch, and it was Tom Baker standing on first base. Did you ever see that one?
I never saw that.
Yeah,
Really?
He's like, "What?" And that's it. It's
That's
one of the really
awesome.
quick flip throughs
Yeah.
in one of the episodes.
Let's do feedback.
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 Anybody else have any news?
Nope.
Okay, let's do feedback.
Star Wars is on Blu-ray. Did you guys hear?
My neighbor has 3 rabbits.
What?
Look soon for the Star Wars podcast from the same guys
Yeah.
who brought you Traveling the Vortex.
We could do it.
Traveling
totally
hyperspace.
Ooh.
No, Keith. We can't get Sean to show up to time on these frames.
I was here on time.
You were today. I was here before any of you. It's your house.
That's because you were bored. We didn't tell you to come over yet. So you just came over.
Yeah, you're welcome to come over to Patrick
I
and
need a
Julian's
key.
and watch shows with us.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you even know? No, we'll get into that.
If I'd have known
later.
you guys were playing Wii tonight, I might have. But
I didn't know we were playing Wii tonight until Will crashed his car.
oh no. Well, talk to me about that later. All right.
First bit of feedback.
He's okay, by the way.
Let's not distract from our first time writer this week.
Make sure you're looking into the mic because you're looking away and you're getting echoey.
Sorry. Okay. My mic clip broke this
Do-
week, guys.
Do you need my bifocals?
No, I don't need your bifocals. I'm not farsighted. Russ wrote
Hi, Russ.
into us and said, "Hi guys, I just wanted to say how much I've enjoying the podcast and having recently discovered it. The discussions are both humorous and insightful at the same time, and it all makes for great fun for a great fun listen. I wanted to take the time to respond to a couple of the issues that you've all raised over the last couple of episodes. As far as I'm concerned, there has been nothing wrong with the sound quality of the episodes that I've listened to, or the volume levels for that matter.
Thanks.
This week I could hear
Go
you
back and find the one where Glenn yells "bang"
Yeah.
really loud into the mic. I bet you'll find some problems with the levels.
We make do.
This week I could hear you even clearer than before, but that's not to say the previous recordings have had poor audio quality. In answer to the recent question, iPod all the way.
Yay!
And he laughs out loud at
Let
that.
me add a tick. Russ. iPod.
Russ, that's a dead horse. You can stop whipping it now.
That's just because you lost.
You lost.
You're right. I'm going to be sore over it, too.
And 3.
But I'm going to come back and redeem myself with who would not watch special features on Star Wars Blu-ray when they first crack the packaging open. Because people are going to go, no, dude, you watch the Walkers, or you watch the deck of the Death Star, or you watch... Any of you
I'm
say
gonna
Ewoks.
see that when
I'm
I
gonna-
watch the movie.
But you just
And I don't want to see a piece of it because that was the other thing. You put we're going to digress.
I'm sorry, Russ.
You put Empire in, which is arguably the best Star Wars film of all time. I'm going to say it right now. It is the best
I'm
Star
sorry.
Wars film of all time.
He told me this is Star Wars. Choose.
But
I chose Empire.
He put Empire in, and we started watching the Echo Base scenes. And you had a reason for it because you wanted to see the ion cannon fire in glorious. High definition.
Well, that wasn't what I was aiming for. I was going for walkers.
Well, whatever.
I got
but
to
anyway,
the ion cannon and then realized I had to stop
in
that.
there, and you fired up. And what did I do? I sit there and I started getting sucked into it. And then I thought, wait a minute. First of all, we didn't start at the beginning, and second of all, I'm going to get sucked into this and not see any of this because it's going to be 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to be falling asleep here. So then I was like, let's do something like watch things I haven't seen before. So anyway.
You could watch Star Wars on Blu-ray. You could watch a piece of Star Wars on Blu-ray and marvel and go, "Oh wow, my
You're
God!"
not allowed to
is
watch
that
a
beautiful?
piece of Star Wars. That's the thing.
On Blu-ray. You are just to try it out and go, "Wow, look
you
at
sit
that!"
down and watch
validate
from
your
A
purchase.
to
That's exactly
B.
it. You put it in. You watch a piece of it and
you
you go,
sit
"How
down and you
beautiful
watch
is that?"
the whole thing in glorious high definition.
You
is
sit
what
down.
you
You
do.
watch a piece. You whet your appetite. It's like an appetizer.
No.
You watch it and you go, "I cannot wait to watch this all the way through."
Because
That's
then
the
what
point.
did I do? I sat there and thought, God, I can't afford to buy the Star Wars on Blu-ray, and it looks really crisp and clean, and now I'm chomping at the bit to buy the stupid thing. Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome. But nobody goes, "Hey, I just bought this on Blu-ray. Let's watch the crappy, staticky, left on the cutting room floor
Blu-ray
stuff."
isn't just the high definition. That's the problem that people have is they think Blu-ray high def, Blu-ray high def, Blu-ray high def. That's a bonus of having Blu-ray. But the big thing about Blu-ray discs is the fact that you can store so much information on there.
The
so
problem
they're able
is they
to
don't
put
always
new
utilize
stuff.
that.
No, they
Well,
don't. You're
I
absolutely
100% agree with you. But this is Star Wars.
Russ, what's your
Back to Russ's
Russ's
email.
I'm not going to argue with you.
3.
You'd lose.
That's for another podcast. Look for traveling the hyperspace. Have you
Traveling the
recently
Kessel
bought
Run.
the Key to Time box set following on sorry.
Maybe you should start that over.
Way to go.
Having
you just
recent-
screwed Keith up. Way to go.
Having recently bought the Key to Time box set following on from the reviews on the Who on Who podcast. Ding. It's a plug.
It is a plug, yeah.
That's your cue to
And
write that down.
I'm writing it down. And I've listened to their
Key to Time
Key to
stuff?
Time, yeah.
I was really looking forward to your review of The Stones of Blood. For me, this was one of the creepiest stories in the classic era of the show.
Thank you, Russ.
I well remember watching from behind the proverbial sofa. Watching it second time around as an adult, I found that it hadn't lost any of its creepiness. While I wasn't behind the sofa this time around, there was still moments that had me on the edge of my seats, and I can honestly say I enjoyed it as much this time around as I did on its original broadcast all those years ago. Well, time to wrap up, but I wanted to say thanks for a great podcast, and here's to many more to come.
Thank you, Russ.
Thanks, Russ.
Enjoy hearing from you.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you enjoyed Stones
That's the
of Blood.
first time we've heard from Russ, too,
Yeah.
right?
Russ is a first-time writer.
First time.
Apparently a long-time listener now.
Yep.
Or having recently discovered. That didn't make him a long time. But
Well, he's listened to a lot of episodes.
he's listened more than I have.
He has listened.
Our next bit of feedback comes from Chrissy.
Hey, Chrissy.
Good friend Chrissy. Make sure you read the subject line here.
Comment question, Dear Vortex Boys, a.k.a. Schmucks. Thank you,
Told
Chrissy.
Told you.
Chrissy writes, well, you sound great. The new microphones make you sound really professional.
It's the computer that makes us sound professional.
I'm at a
Still
loss.
the same old
I
mic.
don't-
Still the same crappy mics.
Yeah, same mics, new computer. So I guess that means you've hit the big time, and that's fantastic. But always remember the little people who would listen to you even while you huddled around a Rock Band mic set up in the middle of the room. You're not far off from where we're at now, Chrissy. We just have 3 Rock Band mics now.
And we're not huddled around one.
2 Guitar Hero.
Well, 1 Rock Band, 2 guitar. Why you got to ruin all the magic? You're that damn dog. Just go and tug it on that curtain to show the guy back there behind the... Yeah. Call you Toto now on... Oh, God, I made a Wizard of Oz reference, and I live in Kansas. I'm not allowed to do that. Anyway, Chrissy says, I have to take a little bit issue with Mark Lee's little snarky comment about the 6th Doctor in the favorite/least favorite Doctor debate, because While the Sixth Doctor is not my absolute favorite, he is far from the worst Doctor. I really don't know who I would say is my least favorite. That's just a hard question to answer.
Wait a minute.
A lot of that has to do
How
with...
can you place distance between the worst and Colin Baker if you don't know who the worst is?
She goes on.
Okay,
not
keep
worst,
going.
Least favorite.
A lot of that has to
Least
do with the
favorite,
fact
excuse
that
me.
Big Finish really stepped it up and let the Sixth Doctor shine in a way that never came to pass on TV. I even enjoy much of Colin Baker's TV stories. I'm willing to forgive a lot of things during that time period in Doctor Who's history, mostly because I know the BBC was working so hard against the show. Colin Baker had such a love for the show and the character back then, and even now, and I admire him so much for keeping up the enthusiasm for the show, even though he got the short end of the stick during his tenure. But if there's anyone that thinks little of the Sixth Doctor, I urge them to take a listen to any of his Big Finish audios and then try to tell me that he was the worst. As far as I'm concerned, Big Finish is canon. Well, I got pretty defensive about that, didn't I? On that note, hooray for Big Finish reviews from Traveling the Vortex. You'll hear no complaints from me on that one. Glenn, I think you read feedback very well. Don't sell yourself short on your out loud reading skills. I can understand if you just don't like to read, but as a librarian, I take it upon myself to help out reluctant readers. Let me know if you'd like me to recommend books and things to help you out. Ha ha. That's it for my non-spoilery feedback. I'll chime in after the God Complex has aired and give my thoughts on it. Chrissy.
I love to read, Chrissy. Don't let me
I'm
confuse you. I prefer not to read out loud because I read slow and tend to stammer a bit. But I absolutely love to read, and I read books. It just takes me a little time to read them.
I blame myself for sounding so awesome when I read out feedback that just
Sean
the
does
two of you
sound
can't
awesome.
keep
He's
up with me.
He's a
so
reader-writer.
I'm sorry.
and he won an award for his writing.
did.
Did you know that?
Did you? You won an award?
I did win an award. And in class, that we're one of our projects is we're having to put together a music video.
Mm-hmm.
I was out this week for class on Tuesday because I had a headache. I had a migraine. It wasn't just a headache, but so I got an email from the teacher afterward, and she said, I hope you don't mind. You weren't there. We split up and put people into teams. Since you weren't there, can I make the executive decision and make you the writer-director for your team? So I immediately flashed into the amateurs and said, there's a name for people like us, Andy. We're called writer-directors. So now I have a writer-director credit to my title.
Well, you've had a lot of writers.
I've had a lot. I've never directed anything. So
Something else Chrissy said was about the Sixth Doctor, and I think first time that I saw the Sixth Doctor on TV, I was fine with him. I liked him. In fact, I liked the take that he took on it. But I will certainly say that his Big Finish audios are fantastic, and once you listen to the Big Finish audios, it gives you a better appreciation for being able to visualize the Doctor. Then, too, when you go back and watch his stuff on television, I even appreciate those stories a lot more now. So,
I haven't tackled any Sixth Doctor Big Finish, but I look forward to it when I get there, knowing how much from everything I've heard, how
highly
much
recommended.
Yeah.
I'm still in the middle of that one. I haven't managed to proceed any further. Not for any lack of storytelling. It's a great one so far. I just haven't had a chance to listen to it. So,
that's all our feedback for non-spoilery.
You checked Facebook this week, right? So
I did not check Facebook.
we do want to thank Chrissy while we're on the subject.
Epic
She also,
fail.
and I don't know if she had done this
You're the
before
Facebook
last.
keeper.
I don't know if she had done this before last week, but she also gave us a review on iTunes, and we appreciate that, Chrissy.
And it was a fantastic.
It was a fantastic interview. So now
was
we've
it?
got
I haven't seen it because I don't have iTunes.
Richmond and Chrissy now
You
both have
a
put
Mac.
reviews. So if you'd
Which
like
I
to,
don't know how to use, and I have no software for it.
if you'd like to
I've
put a
owned
review,
it all of 2 weeks now.
Oh,
I knew there was more software.
if you'd like to put a review on iTunes, please feel free, and you can give us 5 stars there while you're there.
Reese did post one that all of us missed back in 2000, or back. I am already jumping.
We had to travel back in time to get a hold of this one. That's why
Before
we
we
missed it.
started this podcast, we received feedback on it. Here it is.
On August 31st. Reese said, "Hi all. I just wanted to say that I completely agree with with Keith that the Doctor's new coat
No one's supposed to completely agree with
nowhere
Keith.
near as good as his tweed jacket."
No, okay.
Well, you guys lay off the coat.
Yeah,
We totally need to do an episode called "The Doctor's Wardrobe," and
okay. Since we're
Do
talking
it.
about since what we do, since we're talking about the Doctor's coat, didn't somebody tell me last week we were going to see it in the God Complex?
No. Somebody said last week that we were going to see the tweed in the God Complex.
Oh, the tweed. Okay, I thought somebody said we were going to see the return of the coat in the God Complex, and I kept
tweed
watching
coat.
for it, and it wasn't there. And then, of course, at the end of the next week, it's very clearly in the. I don't remember what the name of the episode is next, but it's clearly in there. So,
wow,
yeah,
you said that, and it just flew right out of my head.
I knew it. I knew it earlier today, but it's totally blank. I'm blanking on it now. So,
it's Craig's back.
yep, Craig is back. Sign it.
Spoilers.
Yay. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that's
All
all
right.
the feedback then.
I thought there was more.
There is more for the.
Well, I mean, we have more
for the
that's
God complex.
Yeah.
it's God complex related, so we'll have to dive into that later. But
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so let's launch into our review of the androids of Tara. Keith finds the liner notes.
The liner notes. It seems that the search for the fourth segment of the Key to Time will prove simple when Romana locates it on the planet Tara, but in a land where
Right
nothing.
away.
And if I can't make commentary during this,
Sorry,
you can't
you're right.
either.
I'm not supposed to say things.
But in a land where nothing is as it first appears.
And it's not. Oh, sorry, I did it again.
That makes it seem like it's Alice in Wonderland. The Doctor and his companion quickly find themselves embroiled in a deadly game of kidnap, deceit, and counterplots. It is not long before the Doctor finds himself locking swords with the dastardly Count Grindel of Gracht, the finest bladesman in the kingdom, who has sinister plans for Romana.
no.
No, yeah, this
No,
does not
this
deserve a
doesn't-
Yeah,
done.
it really doesn't.
Yeah.
I thought you liked this one.
No, he likes Power of Kroll.
I do like.
Did
Power
you like
Scroll.
this one?
No.
Okay, so none of us like
no,
this one.
I don't. I don't not like this one. This is one of my least favorite in the Key of Time.
It's up there.
Very
with
diplomatic
Stormy
quote
Rebos.
blend.
I don't like.
I almost like
I don't
Rebos
like it.
better.
Yeah, I used to say I like Ribos a little. Ribos.
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 I like the frog
I do like
one.
Ribos a little. I do like Ribos a little bit better than this one, but this ranks down there with Ribos.
Yeah,
Stones of Blood actually got elevated this.
I think what's
Week,
most painful
in
about this
rewatching this
episode or the story is we have the key so early on, and then Romana gets taken by the big-nosed Count Grindel.
You mean the Sheriff of Nottingham,
Yeah, really.
or should I say the Sheriff of Rottingham?
What that does for this, though, is it gets away from the format because
It gets away from the
they're
format,
a little
but it's-
formulamatic where we launch into a situation where we have to figure out where the key is and we're searching for it, and we don't get the key actually until the very end, and then when we get the key, then we transform it, and it becomes. This actually all happens right there in the first episode.
It does, and I
at the very
appreciate that
beginning.
fact.
So I liked that.
I wish
and I
they
still
would
knew
have-
we were going to have to do a story. So
I wish they would have done that, left, and finished the story elsewhere.
well.
Because I just the android aspect when you saw them as androids for the time, that was really cool. I thought seeing like
Well, because
the-
it was
the
just another
heads.
actor. You mean
No,
you
no,
mean when you
when he
saw
was
them not
working-
as an actor?
You mean
Yeah,
the
when
mannequin
the-
head wires?
Okay.
when the
I got
face
you.
was off.
I got you.
I thought that was really nice for this time period.
1978.
78. I can't remember.
I don't know why I can't remember. All of these are set in all of these were aired in 1978.
I'm sorry. I'm traveling the vortex,
well,
and I
it's a
can't
good
keep
year.
track of what
Up
year it
until-
is.
Well,
Power of Kroll was
Yeah.
actually the Christmas story, so
You're
it
right,
winds up
yeah.
rolling over into
You're right.
79, but 78.
78,
so
79.
far all these have been up in 78.
But I just didn't care about all this politics on this planet, especially
You have complained about every one that has a political
no,
stories.
not every single one.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, you have.
I liked Deadly Assassin. That was very political.
Well, but yeah,
That's-
you're
okay,
right.
no, he's
I
right.
stand
We
corrected.
have to give it
but
It's Gallifreyan politics.
Deadly Assassin is steeped in Gallifreyan politics.
Yeah, and I think
so
that's why I liked it more.
It almost lends more to the mythos of the Time Lords, and so
Yeah, that's true.
you sidestep all of the political bantering, and you get a lot of little nuggets as you go. You don't like the ones where you step in and you don't care about these
I
people's
need a reason,
backstory
yeah.
and all. You don't care about their hierarchy and their political structures and whatnot. And so but you really have complained on everyone.
I know I have, but
Keith doesn't like politics.
well, it's not that I don't mind politics.
Who does?
I don't mind I don't like
I like
political
politics.
backstabbing. I'll be honest, I wasn't a big fan of the Manchurian Candidate. I haven't seen the original.
Bite your tongue.
Yeah, that's just
I haven't
wrong.
seen the original.
That
I
is
only saw the
absolutely-
remake.
Oh,
In fact,
well,
you just
okay.
you
Now,
just,
wait. He just qualified it because he hasn't seen the
yeah,
original.
the remake's not all that great.
No, it isn't.
But
basically, Deadly Assassin,
I-
Manchurian Candidate, same thing. I mean,
know,
it's
but,
based.
I mean,
it's based on
a
the
lot
same
of
story.
The biggest political
Or it's very similar. It seems.
film I liked was Wag the Dog.
Okay.
That was the most political film I've liked.
I'm going to stand behind the. There are three things you should never discuss: politics, religion, and the Great Pumpkin.
That's kind of a little bit of both. So
Yeah. You know, what's interesting here is the inside booklet actually kind of makes Android Zatara sound cool. I thought I would throw this out there in defense of it, just not that I really defend it. And of course, I suppose I need to quantify my statements by saying that I was late to Friday Night Who this week. I was attacked by a wayward nap.
yeah, that was nice.
I went to bed and slept straight through the alarm, didn't get up or anything, and missed 3/4 of the episode. Joined you guys on Ep 4 for the tweet along.
You had seen it before, but
I'd seen it before, but
been a while
honestly, it's
enough.
been long enough that I don't remember a good chunk
but you
of
went
it.
back and rewatched it this weekend.
No,
so that
I
you
didn't
can
get a
catch back.
chance.
He was too busy doing homework.
I was too busy doing homework again.
It's
So
like
He
Sea
couldn't
Devils
even go
all over
rescue
again.
his friend
Sea-
James
I-
when he got
that's
in a
so-
car
that's-
accident because he was
that's
doing
so-
homework.
Sea Devils now, and
yes, you can edit my homework
Tomb of
list.
the Cybermen, and now
Oh, that's right. I still need to watch the last part of that one. I forgot. The liner notes for Android Zatara. Traditionally, in Doctor Who, duplicates or doubles herald the first wave of an alien master plan for global domination. In the Androids of Tara, however, the scale is considerably less grand.
well,
This is a tale of Count Grendel's personal greed and struggle for power, where android duplicants are merely convenient tools in a political game played by ancient laws and customs. There are no huge battles here, no massed armies ready to do bloody battle, no aliens poised to overrun the planet. This is a battle of wits, 1-to-1, where doublethink, literally, will win the day rather than brute strength. That Romana herself is Princess Strella's double is an added twist to draw the time travelers into the action. And inevitably, the Doctor is forced to abandon fishing and go head-to-head with Grendel. An artful fashion of costume drama and sci-fi, The Androids of Tara is a fine example of the BBC drama department playing to its strength. That part I have to agree with.
I would agree as well. I mean, it does. I agree. It does get. It does.
Not the BBC Doctor Who department.
It does get bogged down in a lot of the political double crossing and all the little hijinks with the androids. How we've placed the what was his name, Prince Reynard's put an android in place because he's fears for his life because there's been attempts on his life. So he puts the android up so that it can act as a decoy. And then in turn, when he gets captured, they have to turn around and use the android as more of a decoy, as a stand-in for him. And then, of course, the Count is also creating the android in order to have Princess Strella come in and say that she doesn't recognize the, it's
Convoluted.
Actually, it was more to qualify his crowning,
Yeah.
because he thought that if the prince didn't show up, he would obviously get the crown, and she
and
would
then-
come in and qualify that, then he would rule the kingdom. But
And then that didn't work, so he went to Plan B,
So-
and then
it really lacks in action, and that's a problem. Up until the last episode, when we get the really cool
the
sword
fight
battle,
was
I like
nice.
that.
I think
Like
Tom
that a lot.
Pertwee
Tom Pertwee.
There's a new
Well,
one.
the last time we saw
I think John Pertwee is a slightly
the
better
last
swordsman.
time that we saw, the Doctor use, at least since we've been reviewing, and all three of us, well, some of us saw it, and
I saw that
was in Sea Devils, where he's
No, you didn't.
battling the Master. So
No. The last one we saw. No, I'm still right. Chronologically and
By our
temporally,
viewing.
the last one we saw where he sword fought was Time Warrior.
Oh, he did, yeah. That's
Oh, yeah,
right.
that's
A
right.
very
But-
long,
but
protracted
I-
against
yeah,
another android.
You're
Actually,
right.
come to
It
think
was,
of it,
and it was. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
and he won, and then he had
But
to
so
fight
we have,
two guys.
so
at the
yeah,
same
now we've
time,
seen
so.
him twice with the sword play, and of course,
Well, now 3 times.
it's funny because before this, and so it's funny when we come to this and he's doing he doesn't really know what he's doing,
Yeah.
and he's hustling the guy because that his character traits, while his personalities and appearance change, he still carries over these. Although he doesn't use the what's the martial arts that the third
The
Doctor.
Venusian Aikido.
Yeah, the Venusian Aikido. He doesn't use that ever, but if he needed to, I would totally believe that he would be proficient in that as well. So
this episode felt to me like they had this really cool idea for a script, and they're like, well, we don't have any show this could work for. Let's shove the Doctor and Romana in it and make it work for Doctor Who.
Yeah. I don't know. This still feels very Doctor Who.
There are parts
in the
of it
fact
that do.
that
We've got this backwards planet that has lightning crossbolts and swords until they clash against each other, in which case they don't anymore. We have androids. They have all this wonderful technology to do all this stuff, but they still ride around in horses and
I like
carriages.
that. I've always liked the primitive
cool
technology meld that they do, not just in Doctor Who, but any genre that does that, where they have the technology, but they also have the kind of primitive feel to them. I always think that's kind of cool. It's kind of pre-steampunk,
it really
even though
is.
steampunk is a little more of a different kind of genre, but it always gives that same feel that we've
it's
kind of advanced
the-
in certain ways, but we haven't advanced in others. And
It's whatever the era before steampunk would have been.
Sure, yeah. It's like
Pre-industrial.
Medieval punk.
Medieval.
Well, and it's fun because so many of these
Honestly,
other examples, when they do that, whether it's Stargate or whatever it happens to be, would quantify it. Oh, we were this way, and then we regressed back to this, or we had this way. There's no explanation
No, they
on
don't
that.
even
I'd rather
It-
not have an explanation.
Well, and
I
that's
don't want to hear them
sometimes I
regress
would,
because that doesn't make sense.
That's why it works for Doctor Who. This is just one of those, we're not going to explain it, we're going to move on.
This is just the way they are,
This is how this planet evolved.
What's interesting, this was written by David Fisher, who also wrote Stones of Blood.
Really?
And so it feels completely different. The
Props on
tone,
him for making the feel different.
yeah, I mean,
Well, I think part of that is the director also.
well, yeah, I'm sure,
yeah.
but I mean, like Bob Holmes' stuff, kind of always feels like Bob Holmes, and Terrence Dicks, I think, to a certain extent, and Terry Nation definitely. Because have you ever noticed Terry Nations pretty much always have Daleks in them?
You know,
I don't know what's up with that, but
What's the deal with
It's a weird coincidence.
yeah, it's strange. But it's a completely tonal shift from what came last week.
Yeah.
And there are elements of it that are kind of cool and work, and there are elements to it that don't. And I remember as a kid being confused by the androids, and what are we doing with these? They're just there to replace the king? Big whoop. I mean, there was no real coherent plot there.
Yeah.
Watching it, admittedly only the fourth part
Yeah.
this time out,
Well-
I was still stuck there. The first thing I asked you was, now, isn't everybody on the planet an android? I seem to remember that. I was whispering because I didn't want to ruin anything if we hadn't got to that point. But and you were like, no, it's just this person. Well, and this person, and this person. But
Right, but they talk about how the use of androids and what they use them for, and that they do use other androids, but for the purposes of the ruse that is being set up and the coup that's happening, they're just this is an android, this is an android. There you go.
now we do have things to cheer about in this episode. K9.
K9
Yes, K9 was rather good
gets
in this episode.
a marked performance.
Not as good as last week.
Not as good as last week.
Although there wasn't the tragic
and even
sadness of last week.
Pirate
either.
Planet
Yeah,
too.
not even
Yeah,
as used as much as Pirate Planet. Although we do get some action out of him as far as a laser and everything. So.
And isn't it strange that he can cut through a stone wall faster than a wood partition?
His nose is sonic. It doesn't work on wood.
No, it's not Sonic.
Thank you, Keith.
It's a laser. Anyway,
You shush.
What was the doctor's comment? What hamster with a penknife could have done it faster?
yeah, he was really brilliant. And I had to turn and task the key. And I said, so the doctor keeps chiding and making
tweeted
fun
something
of
to me last
and
week about it,
You were
too.
like, that's okay. He's his master.
Yeah. If it's the doctor, it's okay because that's his master.
I think that what doesn't work in this one for me too is there's a lot of points where the humor feels forced. It's like we knew we were doing a drama here. We knew we were doing a costume drama, which, by the way, the costumes look fantastic.
They
they're
were.
very
They
period,
were
but
very impressive.
As we mentioned before, BBC does do period piece costuming very well. But
I still say we were going for Sergeant Pepper.
well, Romana's. You guys didn't like Romana's.
I don't have a problem. I thought Romana.
Green.
Everybody else complained about it. I liked
I
Romana's
didn't
outfit.
complain about it. I didn't care what she's wearing.
Glenn just wants her on the screen. That's all
She's
he
very-
cares.
Glenn was
This
all
episode, He liked this episode so much more because there are like 4 different
We-
Romanas in
we-
this
we had-
episode.
There were
Four-
four
four-
people that Mary Tam was
Tam played.
playing.
We had Romana, we had Princess Strella,
Estrella.
and like 2 androids.
and we had the android of Princess Strella, and then at one point we have an android of Romana,
Romana android, yeah.
who apparently can shoot lightning bolts out of her belly button. I'm not sure I understand that equipment on an android. It's like, kill. Where? I mean,
What's the most logical place to put a laser?
you couldn't have raised
There's a
your
hole right
hand.
there.
You couldn't have raised your hand and finger pointed and had bolts of lightning shoot out of that. No, it's just we're just going to get a ray beam that materializes out of her abdomen. Okay,
I liked that. That was cool. She's Sparky from her abdomen.
Rose-tinted glasses here, folks.
Hey, you got your obsession with K9. I got my obsession with
can we call her Little Sizzling Belly?
Little Sis. I like that. I like that.
I don't know. I just yeah.
No, I. Anyway, so, but what doesn't work is there are.
Do I need to talk to Mary Tam when I go to Galley? She's going to be there, you know.
Would you get her autograph for me, please?
If I'm allowed.
She still looks lovely today.
What do you mean
She
if you're
did.
allowed?
Galley's got a. I don't want to tangent, but Galley's got a specific setup for how autographs are
You
going
just
to
get
work.
in line twice and pay for
No,
it.
I don't. I don't know that you can.
I think you can.
I-
If you're willing to wait.
Well,
I'm-
yeah,
I'm-
I'm
I'm sorry.
perfectly willing to wait. If it worked for me,
Why
I'd bring
would-
home autographs for
Is
everybody.
it
but-
Galley or the actresses?
It's if they're contracted through 10th Planet, then there's like certain guidelines, and if they're there through their own agents, then there's certain guidelines. So it just
And
kinda
if they're
depends.
there as guests of Galley, there's certain guidelines.
Right,
There's
right.
like 3 different potential ways that this could work
Right,
out.
So anyway,
I'll explain later.
Yeah, but
I'll explain. I've never been there, but yeah, I know what's going on. Sure.
Yeah, you just pass on my love and adoration.
Give her a big kiss for him.
Yeah, would you? That'd be awesome. If you could just wrap one up and email it to me, that'd be nice too. Anyway, the humor.
I
in
think
this,
we're moving into creepy
there's-
cyber
There
stalking
are
now.
moments. There are moments. No, I'm not going to cyber stalk Mary Tam. There are moments
Is she on
though
Twitter?
where they feel like they're putting tongue-in-cheek humor in there, and there's moments where it works, and there's moments that it doesn't. And I've always felt that the Doctor's humor is always well placed and well done, but there's a few times where Tom Baker almost takes it a little over the top, and I thought that was unnecessary. If it had been done in a different spot or in a different way, it'd have been all right. But it's a lot of his reaction to things, which I've always liked about Baker's Doctor, as he does. He overreacts, and he does these big, grand, exaggerated reactions to get the laugh and to kind of throw off anybody that's nearby. But there's times where it's almost like the timing was just not right in this one, and I didn't like that. But
So, for example, when
Can't
K9 does
do much
cut
else.
through the plywood, I'm sorry, the bulkhead
Yes,
door or
yes.
whatever it was in the castle, and he mentions, "You stay here. There's bound to be a lot of stairs. Be quiet. Be careful."
the crash, even
And
though
then
I
there's a
laughed,
crash off
was a
camera.
little much.
That's a bit
and
much.
if the crash had happened, I wouldn't have had so much of a problem. But then he sticks his head back out and he says something again to K9, and I can't remember what it was, but
That's the bit that's over the top.
yeah,
That's the bit that's too much.
they pushed that gag just too far, and I didn't like.
But this
it.
is where we really start to see more and more and more of that too. And I honestly, I'm going to blame Douglas Adams for it, because they did so much humor in Pirate Planet
Yeah,
to the
they
point
did.
where I don't remember which line it was, but there's one moment where Tom Baker actually looks directly into the camera and delivers a line, and it's a joke to us,
Yeah.
for us. That was kind of the moment where it's like, oh, we're going this way now.
Yeah.
That was the turning point, I think. So you start to see a lot more of that kind of goofball humor.
Yeah.
Stones of
would
Blood
agree.
with him throwing the umbrella away. Although
would
that's
agree.
also a total Doctor moment.
Yeah,
I mean,
see, and I'm
totally
okay with
seemed
that
Doctor.
one
That-
there
I didn't have a
because
problem with that.
it's very. What's the word? It's very
eccentric.
Yeah, eccentric. Yeah, it's
I
very
wanted to put an extra couple of syllables in there.
eccentrical.
Eccentric.
It's very eccentric. That's the eccentric Doctor, which I like.
Eccentricities?
That's what I like. I do like that. But
I-
this
I-
one
I
almost
like my
seems to
Doctor
overdo it a
eccentric.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is
Anything
there anything else
else
to
to
say
talk about this
about this?
episode?
I want to talk about the Sheriff of Rottingham.
Yeah.
I really expected this guy to start launching into backwards talking at one point.
Oh,
He
I
was
expected his mother to show up.
The old witch.
I don't mean anything against the actor because he was really very good for what he was given.
Yeah, he did a great
No,
job.
yeah, he's another problem with this is because that's what he did. He took this character and he
turned him into Sheriff of
he
Rogers.
turned him into well, he didn't because that wasn't around before, but he turned him into this almost silly comical character, and so you really never got any impression that he was menacing or that he was
that's why
maniacal or that he was scheming. He was just a bit smarmy. I mean, is all he really was.
Dude marched into the king's headquarters, threw a spear at the king, happened to be an android, which he knew,
right?
abducted Romana, vaulted over a stairwell, and ran away, and got away with it.
But if he hadn't done it so sillily,
I don't think he was silly. I think he was suave. I think he was just that badass.
No.
Yeah, I totally think he was a cool guy.
No.
And I love the fact that he gets the typical Robin Hood villain, throws down the sword, delivers a line, and dives off the castle wall to swim across the moat and escape at the end. That to me is what made him work.
And the only reason they felt like they did that is because they felt that he was a strong enough character to bring him back someday. So they thought, okay, we'll just let him get away so that we can bring him back sometime. I'm so glad we've never seen Hide Your Hair. The guy.
You know what? I'm now going to do that just for you. I'm going to write a story.
Oh,
you better capture the exact way that he was in that, though, or it won't work. Because if you
better go back
if you
and watch
tone
the
him
other
down,
three
or
Well, I have to
make
watch
him-
the other three parts.
Yeah, if you tone him down and make him more subdued than he was in this, then it's not going to work as a.
Oh, he's not going to be subdued. He's going to be huge, and
I can't make him bigger than he was, though. So
it's going to be over the top.
you got to
Probably make him
capture
bigger.
the character.
You
gonna be over the top.
You mentioned how, or we were talking about how unthreatening he was. I think that's my problem with most of the political thrillers is there's no imminent danger. And that's the problem I have with it.
With the exception of Vengeance on Varos.
I liked Vengeance on Varos.
Well, I know that was very political, but
There was a lot of political.
Everybody's going to get killed, executed,
But
at some point.
I liked that one
Yeah.
more than I liked these other
That
two.
was one political one that you didn't have a problem with.
And
I
same
still-
thing with Deadly Assassin. There was an imminent threat.
Yes,
And
agreed.
A bad guy
The problem is if
that is of caliber
if
to
one
make
of our
you worry.
if one of our heroes or championed characters is threatened in any way, death-wise, then it makes for a good political thriller. If it's just a power grab or a maneuvering into a higher power seat, it doesn't work as well. And Vengeance on Varos sort of does both of those, but because you have our hero in peril so much, it works really well. In this one, I never got the impression that the Doctor was ever in peril.
Or Romana,
even when
really.
Romana was locked up, and you never got the impression that
she
was
escaped
ever
on
really,
her own.
Yeah, a couple times.
So I mean, obviously,
I liked that he had he felt
Grendel.
like he had that rapport with the Doctor in the way that the Master did.
That's what this
But
was
he
played
didn't have
to.
the
He was
menace that the
trying-
Master did.
he was
I
trying
said
to be
that
the-
too. I said
yeah.
this really feels like this would have been perfect having the Master here. Now maybe I would have bought it because
if it would, because the Master
Oh, that
would have been more menacing.
If this hadn't been post
Deadly
Assassin, this would have been a perfect Master story. That would have elevated this to such great levels.
yeah, absolutely.
Anthony Ainley could have played that
that's where
so
this is
well.
where the
Yeah.
android plot comes into play. That he's actually trying to take over the planet. Why we don't care.
it doesn't matter because
It just-
the Master's always trying to take over civilizations or planets or whatever. So it works.
Maybe
so
he
well.
is. Maybe it's the Master in disguise, and he just never revealed himself to the Doctor.
Yeah, although he
It doesn't work continuity wise.
it doesn't work because he's decayed and grotesque here, and then he's decayed and grotesque here, and that book ends this story. But
I'll find a way to make that work.
okay,
Now I'm
You
excited
do
about
that.
him as a
All right,
character.
you do that. Maybe that.
yeah,
could,
if it were the Master, that's a credible threat.
Man, missed opportunity.
Count Grendel. Well, and almost seems also that
Is his name an anagram? We make that work.
the problem is I can't say that they wanted this to be a Master story, and the reason I say that is because the Master was more of a subdued character when Roger Delgado played him.
Yes.
It wasn't until Anthony Ainley came along that it really took the more light tongue-in-cheek. Now, don't get me wrong. The original Master did have some tongue-in-cheek moments, and he did have those lines, but he was more of a Bond villain Master, whereas Ainley's Master was more of a what's a good example? He was just more tongue in cheek, more light, more, I mean, he still was as menacing as ever, but and still had the same ideals and power grabs, but he wasn't quite the charming. He still had the charm, but he wasn't quite the charming Delgado. I'm going to kind of just slow play this. Ainley was more for power grabs and more for going for the gold, and that was that was what this count was.
Well, it's almost if you go back to Curse of Fatal Death with Jonathan Pryce spoofing the Master.
He's
spoofing Ainley.
He's
totally spoofing.
Yeah. Even though he looks more like Delgado.
Yeah, with the whole, oh my dear doctor.
Yes.
That's Ainley.
Absolutely.
That's what he does. And
I think that's where Eric Roberts was going with it too. Is he was trying that more suave, the over the top.
I'm a villain and you must know it.
Master. So yeah. Anyway,
I always dress for the occasion.
Yes, that kind of thing.
He's going to be a galley.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
that was news this week. You should have brought
was
that
that this
up
week or
earlier.
last week?
You tweeted it this week. So.
Oh, well,
yeah. You texted me about it this week.
Other news, in addition to Eric Roberts showing up at Galley.
Last-minute breaking news.
This just in.
John Delancey.
Oh, I didn't see that either.
John Delancey is going to be at Galley. And then there was a whole slew of more directors, behind-the-scenes people, including
got to win the lottery.
Someone from Castle.
I've got to win the lottery.
One of the producers of Castle is going to be there, which leads me to believe Nathan Fillion might show up.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So, Sean, since you have...
Although if Badger's there.
4 John Delancey autographs, are you still going to get another one?
I do have 4, don't I?
Yes, you do.
We're looking at the wall counting 1, 2, yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
From different conventions, no less. If it's included, yes. If I have to purchase another one, even if I put it on a Torchwood still.
Well, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy I wouldn't buy a Delancey Star Trek. I've got 4. I've got 4 of those. I don't know. If I had to pay for it, probably not. He was great. He was probably the best part of the end of Miracle Day.
Careful. I still haven't seen the 10th episode. So.
And then there was that one scene where that thing happened.
Oh, yeah.
And then that one guy?
He blew me away there.
Anyway.
Where he kills that whole family with that blank.
Android Zatara. So, kind of a maybe middle-of-the-road thumbs down for us. All collectively, maybe.
It's a close call with Ribos.
Ribos. I think I prefer it to. Right. I think I prefer it to Ribos. I really do. The moments in this that work,
there is more canine,
and there aren't many.
Better.
There aren't many, but the moments in it that work, I think, work better than the moments that work in Ribos. I like the bit of the fishing at the beginning.
Yeah, the setup's great.
The setup is really nice.
Which
and
is
then
fantastic.
We went to everyone else, and I was like, I don't really.
I like the Grimwald or whatever his name is.
Grendel.
I like Grendel. But I also
you're getting Grindelwald from
Harry Potter. I also happen to like those movies with those type of villains. You go back to things like The Great Race with Tony Curtis and the bad guy in that. I can't think of his name.
Three Musketeers.
The Three Musketeers. Robin Hood. Against All Flags. Things of that nature have these kinds of villains in them.
Yes.
And I tend to like those type of villains. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why I'm willing to give him more of a pass. But if you had to put me down between Ribos and this one, I think I'd still say Android Zatara is a more entertaining story. Ribos just... it's a rough way to start.
I like the Doctor a lot better in this, and that makes it more enjoyable for me. So
I guess the fact that K9 is in it more makes this one.
Don't let me sway you. Obviously, I mean we are allowed to disagree on these things. Believe it or not.
Can we move on to truly one of the best?
Let's move on to some more feedback.
Do we want to do feedback now, or do we want to wait until after our review?
No, let's do it.
We always
first.
do feedback first.
Let's do it first.
Just because we've always done it a certain way
getting
doesn't
ready
mean
to
we
review.
have to do it that
You
way.
freaked out when we changed seating arrangements.
That's different. I rely on seating arrangements to know when I'm supposed to say things. There's a small guy under my seat with his hand up my butt making me talk. You can't confuse him. I'm a Muppet. You didn't know that?
The God Complex.
All right, first bit is from Holly Mack. Or Holly from Wisconsin. Not Glenn's wife.
Yay!
Hey, guys! This was an interesting episode. I agree that Hotel California should be a podcast title for this episode. And after watching it, very fitting.
Did I suggest that last week?
You did.
I did, didn't I?
I thought I did.
Somebody did.
You came up with last week's title.
You did.
Maybe it was you.
It was Sean. It was Keith.
You can check
where
out
credit's
any.
due.
Okay.
The you can't check out any time you like, but you can never leave. Did in a way seem to kind of fit for some of the characters that were trapped in the hotel. Before we found out the Minotaur was behind kidnapping everyone, I had almost thought that Gibbous, the alien whose planet has been invaded so many times, guy, might be behind the killings, just the way he was standing in the hallway in that one scene, watching everyone talk. I mean, if you think about it, not a bad way to get rid of any potential invader scouts. The scenes at the end with Amy and Doctor were touching. The ending where the Doctor drops Amy and Rory off was slightly surprising, but his reasoning to Amy as to why was very truthful. Very truthful, I think, coming from him. But he did not want to see either Rory or Amy permanently dead, and so if dropping them off here and coming back for the occasional visit, that seems to be fine with him for the moment. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this episode, looking forward to next week's episode. P.S. I forgot to mention in my last email, I do own an iPod. I have quite an extensive music collection, so this makes it rather easy to transport said collection from vehicle to vehicle, or if I'm working out along with me instead of lugging CD cases of music, I might want to listen to a CD Walkman with me. I too first said I would never own an iPod as well, but a friend of mine lent me theirs for a couple days, and I was sold on it. So call me a sheep as well. Holly.
Let's see. The ticks are growing.
Thank you, Holly.
Absolutely. Thank you, Holly. Our next bit.
I'll read this one out.
Oh, good.
The Alex one?
The Alex one. Do I need to? Does Sean need to read this one?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get a chance to read the God Complex reviews before we started recording.
I see. Okay. Well, this one's from Alex Smith, or Freaky Alex, as he likes to call himself sometimes. We don't think you're freaky. Sean does. Hi, guys. Alex here. I'm getting a little bit fine this week as you start recording in 5 or 6 hours, so I'll type quickly. I hope it didn't take you 5 or 6 hours to type this, Alex. I just wanted to voice a few things on the subject of the God Complex. First off, I really enjoyed the story, though the main draw of the episode was the character development for Amy, Rory, and the Doctor. I was a little disappointed that the Doctor's God Complex I'm sorry. Let me start that over. I was a little disappointed that the Doctor's God Complex, his obsession with being the one who has to save the day, wasn't explored further. Through all the material involving Amy's faith in the Doctor was great stuff and made up for that. It should be though. See, there's my problem. However, something that didn't set well with me in this episode was David Williams' character, Gibbous. When Gibbous suggests that they give the possessed Howie to the Minotaur to save themselves, the Doctor understandably shoots the idea down with an angry aside about about how his cowardice isn't quaint, it's sly. When later in the episode Gibbous releases Howie and allows him to escape, it is a very defining moment for his character. It shows him giving into his cowardice. Coupled together, these two scenes felt to me like set up for a fall from grace for Gibbous at the end of the episode. The way that Gibbous went against the Doctor's moral code seemed to imply that we were meant to be against the character. But after Gibbous lets Howie escape, there are no repercussions for him. He goes back to being a comical one-dimensional character and stays that way for the remainder of the episode. It felt like they had written extra material for Gibbous, but it hadn't made the cut, because the character arc in the story just drops off halfway through. Did anybody else get that impression, or am I reading too much into this character? I'm actually following that real well because I thought the same thing, and I'll launch into that a little bit when we talk about the episode. Also, this is a fun episode fact. When Amy was reading the worst fears of the characters from the photographs in reception, I thought the man whose worst fear was Plymouth looked familiar. As it turns out, that was Marcus Wilson, one of the show's producers, and I recognized him from Doctor Who Confidential. Though I don't know this, I imagine his worst fear being Plymouth is some sort of inside joke of the Doctor Who team's behalf, and it's clear from the nods like this that the team is having a great laugh making the show. It's always nice to see that they're having a good time behind the scenes. Thanks for reading. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on the episode. Alex. P.S. Hang on. I'm going to scroll down here now. Wasn't prepared. There we go. P.S. Sean. Sorry about the length of those show notes I sent you. I went a little bit off tangent.
Alex, no you didn't. Don't worry about it. I loved it. I'm looking forward to it.
You know, I thought I saw somewhere someone tweets or post on Facebook that they saw the director among those pictures.
Could be, and I think that Alex is probably onto something there. I bet the staff was having a laugh and putting people on the show that giving a little spot cameos.
Which I always love it when they do that. And if you know about it, that's awesome. And if not, then you don't lose anything from the episode.
As a fan, the thing that catches your eye are clearly the Sontaran, the cat woman.
Did you see the Silurian in the background?
Silurian, and then there's a Jadoon later on as well. So those were neat little touches, I thought.
Yeah. Our last bit of feedback.
Would have liked to have maybe seen a classic monster in there as well. I mean, Sontaran obviously is, but we've seen them in the new series too.
Well, Silurian is too.
That's true.
We technically did see a classic monster. Or at least a distant cousin.
Yes, well, we finally get around to that, but I like to have seen something in the pictures as well.
Our next bit of feedback
is from Chrissy. Comment question. Here's what I thought of the God Complex. It was kind of hard to get into during the first part. I wasn't really sure if I even liked the people Team TARDIS found in the hotel. Team TARDIS. I like that. Everything in the hotel seemed really rushed, and it was hard to get any sort of connection with the characters or their situation. I almost wish this one would have been a two-parter, so they would have let us connect more with the story. Now I say that, but then I think it would be hard to create an interesting enough story with the main characters just running around a spooky hotel. Then again, Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead worked out quite nicely. The ending was really emotional. I could tell that's what they were going for. I just wish I didn't feel so rushed to get the emotional payoff. Oh well, A for effort, right? Chrissy. Thank you, Chrissy, as always. And I kind of get the impression that Glenn's going to take some what's the word I'm looking for? He's going to take an opposite position to that email, I think.
Probably, yeah.
I kind of agree with her. I would have loved to see more of them exploring the fears and then the faith of these people.
Oh, is that that's what you're referring to?
Just in general.
No.
She thought it was kind of meh.
Yeah, no, she did kind of, but no, I
could see where she's...
I agree with the point she makes, but I still think that this is my favorite episode of this series, this season, for sure.
This is better than Curse of the Black Spot.
Oh, this is much better than Curse.
You guys stop ragging
I just watched that the other night, by the way. I loved that one. I just watched it the other night, and I have to say that on second viewing, it falls down for me, but part of it because part of because I've seen other episodes now that have been far superior, like The Doctor's Wife, but also you guys picked it apart so much, and then I saw a lot of the flaws, and it wasn't just you guys. Some other reviews that I'd seen online and listened to
it apart.
Well, you sort of did. Well, yeah, okay, then Keith did.
Did I?
And so I saw those this time, and they bothered me a little more so, but I still enjoy it. It's a fun episode. Holly liked it a lot. So
when I rewatched,
I don't know about Holly from Wisconsin.
Group,
I think she
enjoyed
liked
it.
I can't remember.
Is that where you guys are at now? I meant to ask you, actually.
Yeah, we kind of messed up, though, because I thought, okay, we're starting Series 6, and so we watched Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon, and then I realized, oh, wait, we missed the Christmas episode. Oh. So we had to go back and watch that, and I said, okay, this goes actually goes...
You know, you could have borrowed the Blu-ray.
Yeah, I should have. These go before the episodes we just watched, so keep that in mind, and then we bounced back, and then we watched...
Did you watch Space and Time?
We didn't watch Space and Time, but we she didn't watch Time Crash. She had no interest. Yeah, I tried to get her, but I said I'm going to force it on you because I'm not forcing any Classic Who on her, and that had a lot of inside jokes, I thought, and so I was like, okay, whatever, but she might go back eventually and see them. But Space and Time was one of those things where I remembered it as I remembered the Christmas Carol, and I said, well, there's these two little short ones that are funny and cute. And she said, well, maybe we can watch them sometime, but we were already getting into another episode, so she'll go back and watch them, but I don't think they needed to be chronological.
And she's still up for them. She's still enjoying them.
She liked Curse. She was very confused and disgruntled about Impossible Astronaut Day of the Moon, but how do I nicely say this? She has no concept or bearing on time travel. She doesn't understand it, and so when you get wibbly wobbly or you start bouncing around, she doesn't follow it as well because time travel doesn't make sense to her. She's you can't have cause before effect, and so if it's episodes where they go back in time and something happens within that time period, she's okay. But when you start bouncing around and changing things, although it didn't bother her so much in Christmas Carol, and she did enjoy that, but when you start playing with timelines, she can't rationalize that where she's way too logical. She doesn't rationalize that can work the way that they make it. They kind of force it to work, and she always feels like time travel movies are forced. Even Back to the Future, she says, well, they lay it out well enough for you, and it's a fun enough romp. There are problems she has with it because if you go back and change one thing, then you should change a score of things as opposed to just the finer things in it. And so
she subscribes to the butterfly effect.
She does.
More than
I think it's hard to nail her down on what she likes or what she thinks about time travel because, again, she's a very logic-minded person, and she doesn't believe that time travel is even possible in the first place. So getting over that hump is the difficult part. So that's why she doesn't.
The two-hearted alien, the regeneration, the bigger on the inside.
That's
fine.
No,
time travel. It also travels in time.
Can happen.
You cross the line now.
So so she has issues with those particular episodes, and that's what Day of the Moon is, especially for the fact that the Doctor is the older version of the Doctor, and then she said, well, then how does he come back, and shouldn't he know? And it's just she had a lot of issues. We had like an hour and a half discussion afterwards about how I felt that it works and how she didn't feel it worked. So we came to some common ground. But
that had to be frustrating for you since those are two of your, mind-blowing. You really, really, really liked those two episodes.
I didn't really, really like those episodes. Those were the ones that I said that they blew my mind, but they were empty enough that if they don't come back and explain a lot of pieces at the end, they're going to fall flat. Right. They're fine episodes now, and even watching them the second time, they're still fine episodes, and I had a lot of fun. But there's a lot of things that if they don't pay off at the end of the series, it will change. It will totally change my impression of both of those episodes. Nothing this season's been like that, with the exception of those two episodes. So if the payoff isn't there at the end of the series, then it's not going to work for me. So,
gotcha.
but yes, they were ones that blew my mind. Don't get me wrong; they were mind blowing episodes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The second one especially. But, they had a lot of fun moments too, though. That's what really makes those good. There's a lot of fun moments.
Yeah.
Do you think Toby Whithouse redeemed himself in this episode? I obviously think you do. What do you?
Which was the last one that he wrote?
Vampires of Venice.
Totally redeemed himself.
Considering the first one he wrote was School Reunion.
Yeah. Vampires of Venice has never been one of my... Ugh, I didn't like that. It's
going back and rewatching it's better.
Back in Series 5, it's probably one of my least favorites, but it never really fell down for me. I mean, it wasn't...
We don't have ones we don't like. We just have least favorites.
Well, that's just it. I mean, I try to take them in blocks at a time and say, okay, of this series, this is what I really like, this is what I didn't like. Of this series, this is what I really like, this is what I didn't like.
Yeah.
I mean, or liked less. And so that was one of those ones that I thought was a low point of the season, but it wasn't like Fear Her or...
No.
It wasn't those ones where I go, just left a sour taste on it, or Idiot's Lantern. It wasn't one of those.
I don't think we've had any of those ones season 5 or 6.
Well, I had some not so great moments last week, but nothing like Fear Her or Idiot's Lantern. No. And so...
But see, you were the oddball out last week. We liked...
and I saw so many people on the internet
This was fantastic. This was much better than...
Girl Who Waited.
Well, yes, definitely. But this was much better than Vampires of Venice as well. I mean, I did like it, but I don't think it was a redemption thing. I just think he wrote a better story this time than last time. So it wasn't it wasn't like was it Mark Gatiss is the one that is Mark Gatiss is the one that's wrote Fear Her, and then wrote the one 2 weeks ago, Night Terrors.
Yeah.
That was a redemption for Mark Gatiss.
That's what it
yes,
was.
because I did not like Fear Her, but I loved Night Terrors. So, no, I don't see that as that this week. But.
Maybe again, maybe this is the critical eye of memory. Talking about it in that manner, I mean, do you really need to redeem yourself from Vampires of Venice? I agree with
No,
you. I
yes,
think
that's
it's the
the
weak
thing,
point
yeah.
of the season. I think it's one of the lesser stories. I agree with you, Keith. I don't think we've had a wow, that episode sucked in season 5 or 6,
right.
which
No,
we did have a few of them. And again, we had ones that had moments that worked, but they just weren't very good stories. Vampires of Venice is not one of those that sucked. Vampires. I made a joke. But
the vampire aspect didn't work as well, but everything with the Doctor and Rory and Amy make up for that fact.
It's one of those that the sum is better than the or the
I don't
parts
like-
are better than the sum.
I don't like that they were space fished, but it was a decent story. I like the storyline.
Yeah, and so redeeming himself? No, not necessarily. But in context of, is it a better story then?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I would definitely say on par with School Reunion.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
I liked it better, School Reunion, but School Reunion's a fantastic episode.
Reunion also has that nostalgia factor.
It's
got Sarah and K9. It's tough to overcome.
that's where School Reunion lies for me, because if Sarah Jane and we're getting tangenting again, but if Sarah Jane and K9 weren't in that story, it wouldn't have been near as good, because
it would have
the
been
story
dull.
with these
Krilliteens.
Krilliteens taking over the school and
Why can't I
making
remember
the
all these
smart
random
kids
oddball things like that? But they're simple.
Ribos. You can't remember.
I can't remember Ribos. I can't remember how it's pronounced.
If they hadn't been in there, it wouldn't have been as phenomenal of an episode. But because they're in there and because of the way they're portrayed, it makes it a phenomenal episode, and all the other stuff is secondary to them. So that's again another one that's a bad example of, I can't say, well, this was as good as this, because this one was all through and through, had great characters.
I was
had great
sucked in
actors,
from the beginning.
had great sets. I mean, it's simple sets. I mean,
Oh,
it's Stanley Kubrick's.
talk about
Kubrick's
running
Shining
through
Hotels.
corridors.
It is a
Yeah, exactly. I wrote that down too. I said this is the epitome of running through corridors.
Even more than any of classic Who I've
But
seen.
it's that creepy hotel from The Shining. I mean, you get that kind of essence of it. I expected to see the two little twin girls at some point. It's got all the little aspects of fear. It's got great little moments. The humor in this one is spaced out so well, and appropriately so, because you get so heavy and deep in this story, and how dark it is, and how fearful it is. And so they have these nice little light moments to bring you back, so that you don't quite go there to that dark place and just feel like this episode's weighing you down and being brooding, because you do get the little light moments.
It could have very easily.
Oh, yeah,
It
very
sure
easily.
It could have been a dark
and
episode.
so, who was the white writer again?
Toby.
I just called it Toby Whitehouse.
Yeah, so he perfectly laid in those light moments in order to not get you so weighed down in the heaviness of the episode, and I like that a lot.
Oh,
and it's got a lot of heart too, man. It's so there's moments there that are just incredible moments, and the connection between the characters. I love the connection between the doctors, the doctor, and then the gal, the Muslim
Rita.
gal. Yeah, Rita.
Rita was fantastic.
Oh, I loved
even,
her. I
even
love
the
it.
doctor said,
The doctor
"I wish
says-
I could have you as
Yeah.
companion."
And he says, "Amy, you're fired." No, just kidding. and then he
then
looks
does
at her
the
and
call
puts
me.
the
Call
me.
me.
That's great. I loved it.
And Matt Smith was so fantastic in this episode, especially at the end where he's convincing Amy not to believe in him anymore, that he's just a madman in a box.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
How hard do you
Howie?
think that was from the doctor's perspective
Oh.
to come out and admit it finally?
Well,
That he is
He's not a hero.
he
not
says
a hero.
That he's vain. He wanted her to
that part
company.
especially,
Yeah.
that I didn't. I wanted you to, and even earlier when he's admitting to Rita, when you offer a child a briefcase full of candy, they'll take it. When you offer someone all of space and time, they're going to take it. That spoke volumes for his character when
And
it
it-
comes out that he knows what he's doing with these people.
It goes
and he does it anyway.
It goes a step further by solidifying that he does it anyway, because then she says, "It sounds like that's the offer you're making to me." And he says, he's still even almost trying to.
Well, I'll take you on a trip.
Yeah, he's trying to recruit her at that point. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so even though he has said that this works and this is bad, he's still
there.
inviting her along.
Oh, and
he's
I
still
think-
there.
It's like a junkie in almost
Yeah,
one regard.
absolutely.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
like, I know this is bad for me. I know I shouldn't do it, but I'm doing it anyway.
I think part of it is the fact that he's so lonely, and especially now that there are no more Time Lords, and even in the past, for past companions, he's just so lonely. He's out running on his own that he wants companionship and wants to see the universe through somebody else's eyes.
Yeah.
He wants to have that distraction from the darkness within him, and that's what I took away from this episode.
I would agree. But such great characters. I mean, back to like Gibbous, the guy that's from the planet where they just
First of all, genius concept.
concept
yes.
and costuming, because they even take the visual approach of the mousy guy. He's kind of mousy.
Yeah, he totally
kind
is,
of
yeah.
scared.
The,
little scurry off
the
road.
ears, even though they're pointed, droop
Yes.
because they would. You've been conquered over
Yes.
and over and over.
Yes, and I love the line he says with he was what he was doing before he came there was they were lining roads with trees so that the invading forces can march in the shade. I mean, that speaks volumes for how accepting you are of the fact that you're just continually invaded, and you just let them do it. Is that now you're inviting them to invade you by giving them hospitality when
Yeah.
they get there, by providing shade for them when they march.
Did
down
anybody
your
else
streets.
feel like that was almost a Douglas Adams concept?
A little bit.
That was
It
something
felt very
right out of
Douglas Adams,
Hitchhikers, it felt like.
The whole character and the things that.
But
that
then
he was
the
saying.
Doctor pulls it back to longest survival rates.
Yeah.
The fact
He
that they are
makes-
willing to do this.
He makes the point as to why they're one of the longest living species, because of the fact that they don't fight, that they do cower, they are cowardice, and they do just accept invasion. And
Yeah. Which when he brought that up, it never occurred to me. I
Now-
was like, oh yeah, totally.
This is another example of the science kicking in.
Yes. Now I have to
There's a
agree.
reason for it.
I have to agree with Alex that I did feel that there was going to be this build-up and moment of redemption, or at least expounding on his character and a change there, and they do kind of seem to drop that later because it doesn't go anywhere after he lets Howie go.
He
And,
does live.
well, sure,
could see him
Keith,
come back.
You can say that about anybody. You can say that about Count Grendel. I mean, it doesn't. Yes,
Yeah, true.
I'm.
In the story,
Too many people.
Grendel's
It's not-
gonna
it's not-
invade
I'm
his
not just
planet.
picking on you, Keith, but there's too many people that I hear say, "Well, they didn't explore." The complaint is they didn't explore the character enough, or they felt like they dropped the ball. And then so many people say, "Well, he did live. He could come back." No, I'm sorry. If you're setting up a story like this, it needs to be all inclusive, and you need those moments in there. You can't like, for example,
Craig is a great example, yes.
The great example. He's even coming back, but we resolved his issues in his story, and that's why he was such a great character. And now you can go and expand on that, or you can change altogether and find some other character flaw that you can deal with there.
Yeah.
Even if he does regress or slide back a bit, which you kind of give the impression he does a bit from the preview. This is completely dropped. It's left alone, and it's not set. It's not set so that they don't even hint to you that he might come back, and we might get a
that's
little more.
true.
So that's and again,
it-
I'm not trying to pick on you because I'm not berating what you're saying, but you can't, as a writer, you can't do that. You can't.
Oh no!
You can't set a character up like that and then not give me a follow through on
But
it. So.
but part of me in my mind where he does kind of everything he does is out of cowardice in this episode. Even releasing,
He certainly stays true to his form.
stays true to his form and how he was raised and almost his genetics.
If this had been a Hollywood-produced episode, he would have had a hero-defining moment somewhere about three-quarters of the way through, after he screwed up, after he let him go and let Howie, after he let Howie go. Then he would have had a chance to fight the monster and gone to the rescue and probably died.
And it would have felt formulaic.
It would have felt
Yeah.
formula. It would have felt forced.
See,
I agree
have
that
a
it
problem with
feels
this
like.
character development in this episode.
I agree with
But
him
it
that
seems
it
like
feels
they're
like
going
it
down
was
that
set
path.
there.
Yeah.
It started off that way, and maybe it was written that way, and they decided last minute, what are we doing? That's not who this guy should be.
Yeah, that
and,
could be
and so
too.
they dropped it.
See,
But-
I don't think that anything he did was out of character.
Yeah, I'm not begrudging-
everything he did was.
Oh, no, totally
Yes,
everything he did
agreed,
was in his
agreed.
character.
And I'm
I
not
agree with that.
begrudging. I'm not begrudging the writer for sticking to that plot line. But it really, I can see. I guess what I'm saying is, it didn't bother me so much, and it's not until Alex really points it out that I do kind of see that crescendo and then just fall off. And I see, and Alex is a writer, and from that perspective, he saw that character being developed and built. And even if you didn't have the hero or the defining moment, we needed something there that sort of didn't set him right back to peg one, because that's what happens is he goes right back to peg one, and it really feels like it drops off.
Even if his defining moment would have been admitting, yes, I let him go. Yes, I'm a coward. Yes, this is I survived. That's the moment, and then you move on, because he's admitting to it.
But it's almost like we ignore that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the doctor knew he was lying, though.
The doctor did know.
The doctor gives an expression.
No, that's fine.
I don't think anybody questioned that he was lying.
The doctor
they knew that.
I think the doctor, even to maybe in the back of his mind, knew
it was going to happen.
It was going to happen, despite the fact that he was giving him a chance and he was trying to set him up and say that, this is the moment where you're not going to go with your cowardice. You're going to be courageous and whatnot. So, but let me get back to the characters, because the characters are really well defined in this, with the exception of that one falling off there. Gibbous is perfect as far as the actor portraying him. He does a fantastic job of just facial motion. Howie is wonderful, the quote-unquote nerd. And his fear being in that room, the fear of girls, and just the
wow, did that speak volumes?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, I almost could associate a little bit from my high school days. And it wasn't even so much that girls were picking on me because I kind of hid my geekiness back in high school, but I was unapproachable to girls, and so I kind of even saw that vaguely there in that character as well. Not that I was afraid that they would shoot me down or anything, but I could see where maybe that was even the exaggeration of nobody's probably ever really picked on Howie. That was a girl. They probably never said things like that, but that's your fear, is that if you approach them, that's what's going to come from them, and so I could associate with that being his fear in that room.
I'm still afraid of it.
and then the line Rory gives later, when they're looking at his picture, and that he had just overcome a stutter.
A stammer. Yeah.
A stammer, and how great an achievement that is. And sometimes sometimes even the viewer watching Doctor Who, we forget, because so often the world is at stake, that a lot of people have great achievements in their own life, and I love
no
that
matter how
aspect
small they are, they're great for that individual.
Yeah,
and once again, just an awesome Rory moment.
Oh,
that of all the characters to say it, it's given to Rory to say that line. And
no one else could have delivered it.
It cements him. I'm going to go out and say it. It cements Rory among the greatest companions ever.
Absolutely, it's another nail in the coffin for one of the greatest companions ever.
Okay.
Well, they're all going to die at some point.
Yeah. Here's the other thing I liked about Rory in this episode, is the fact that he wasn't overplayed. That we didn't get the heroic Rory. What we got was nothing's happening to Rory. What's the deal? What's going on? He hasn't found his room.
And
then when they address that, because
the
the doctor finally discovers that, this isn't playing on our fears, it's playing on our faith. When we get to that moment, and he acknowledges or he recognizes this, because you have no faith in anything. You have no faith. There's no God. There's no. I mean, you believe in science.
He's a true atheist.
He is the guy he's the most middle of the road grounded guy there,
yes.
And that's what I thought was really cool, because that just even gave you more, without having Rory, any sort of character development of Rory in this at all. Giving that little line gave Rory so much more character, because you learned so much more about Rory just from that simplistic line. And it was incredible, because it laid so much out there about Rory, but you didn't have to have Rory, being heroic and saving Amy. You didn't have to have Rory. You didn't have to have all that stuff in this one, which we've had in the past, and I've loved it. Don't get me wrong, but we still are getting pieces of Rory's character, even in Rory Light, because there wasn't a lot of Rory. I mean, Rory's there the whole time, but there's not a lot of action for Rory. He even gets, when the Minotaur thing comes through the door, he gets slammed out behind the door. Oh my god!
And that was a great Rory moment.
Yeah, that was just totally,
but pretty much. I mean, everything that Rory did in this episode worked, even though he didn't do much.
Yeah,
that's the genius of Arthur Darvill. That's the genius of the way they're writing this character, is that he continually gets stronger and cooler and more compelling to watch with every, and even the ending. When he gets the card and he's like, she's going to tell us that we can't accept it because it's too extravagant. I'm willing to I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly.
And the doctor just pats him on the back and sends him on his way. And it's like, Rory's got the happy ending now.
It's also cool that Rory gets put. He goes off into the house when the moment happens where the doctor says goodbye.
Yeah,
and is leaving.
That he shouldn't be there for
and
that.
Boy, is this is only the third time that he's really actually told a companion, "Okay, you're leaving. You don't need." It wasn't a companion leaving him; it was him leaving a companion this time, which has only happened with Sarah Jane and
Martha.
No, Martha left him.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Rose.
No, Rose left. No. Well,
Rose didn't leave him by choice.
But Rose left him, but it wasn't her choice. No, Sarah Jane is. There's somebody else is in there too, I'm sure. Perry wasn't by choice. Joe left him by choice because she went off to marry. There's somebody else in there that I thought of the other night that I thought
sort of.
It's really the only companions that he has. Donna. Donna would be.
That's where I was going to go with it.
Yeah.
But.
Okay. So with the exception of Sarah Jane and Donna, Amy is the third companion that the doctor said this is what's best for you and has left them. Susan's the other one. That was the one I remembered.
Yeah.
Susan is the one that the first one that the doctor says, here's what's best for you, and leaves. And you don't get that with any other companions because a lot of the companions leave either by their own accord or they go off and get married, or they stay on Gallifrey and marry some, or hook up with some primitives, or
get sent back to an alternate universe.
Right, exactly. Get sucked into an alternate universe,
or they get blown up.
Yeah, exactly. I guess she didn't get sucked into an alternate universe. Pete actually took her into it.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Or get blown up, or get stuck to marry Brian Blessed. But I'll explain later, Keith. I totally lost my track here.
We were discussing the end.
Yeah, we keep jumping to the end because it's such a moment. But I just the best part. I mean, I love the end, and it totally was unexpected. It happened, and it seems so out of place for the season because of the fact that we've got 2 more episodes, but this obviously isn't the last we've seen of Amy and Rory.
No.
I mean, we just know that that's the case, but it really feels like this is the end, and this is we're done, and it's parting of the ways.
No, it doesn't feel that way to me because it feels so abrupt. There wasn't the...
Well, it is abrupt, but what I'm saying, though, is...
It's not abrupt in the Rose departure.
No, but
abrupt.
it's a nice 5-minute closure.
Well, yeah.
It's more than Sarah Jane got.
It only feels abrupt because it happened sooner than I expected. But it's still a sit down, and they said their goodbyes, and he explained why he was leaving her because especially because he's saving them. I mean, that's her part. Rory says, "Where's the doctor? Why did he leave?" And she said, "Because he's saving us." And then it was.
But how much of
it was an incredible moment. I mean,
It was incredible moments, but on the other side of the token, that is a display of the Doctor's God complex. He's deciding what's best for them, not them deciding what's best for them.
But he's not letting the God complex get in his way in the sense that, I mean, that was the point of having to convince Amy not to have faith in him, and that he's not good for her, and that's the flip side of him realizing that he has this control over people, and he tries to manipulate people. He's not manipulating her there. He's just saying this is what's best for you. And the other thing that happens,
but he doesn't give her the option saying this is what's best for you.
This is the other thing. No, this is the other thing though is she's accepting of that, and that's because of that moment in the room where he talks to her both as little Amelia, and that was that was so cool. So
this was such a good
guys. I will be the first to admit I cried in this episode. I cried from that moment till the end of this thing. I was bawling, but just that moment, and she understood that, and it wasn't him playing. I mean, he even says, "Yeah, you could come with me," but then he explains to her why. I mean, it's because so I can look over your graves. I can remember exactly what the line is, but when he says
over
that,
your grave, or Rory's grave,
and that's another thing. That
I'm sorry,
I've been there, done that.
You know Amy well enough as a character now that Amy could have turned around and told the doctor, "No, I'm sorry, we're going with you." Now, if the doctor had said, "No, you're absolutely not," then okay, that's the God complex thing. That's him
Yeah.
controlling the situation. But he lays out his reason for it, and she's accepting of it. Because at the point where she says, hey, if you run into my daughter, tell her to come see her mom, that's when you realize Amy is not, she's understanding why he wants to do this and is accepting that. So that's why I say I don't think it's him still manipulating somebody, because the God complex is he plays people for his advantages, and he always has. And as sad as that is to admit, even as a Doctor Who fan, this makes you think about this. I sit there and I listen to that impassioned speech to Amelia about how he, you can't have faith in me. You shouldn't be. I've disappointed you before. All this stuff, and I reflected back to all of my history of Who, and I thought, wow, you think this is a guy that just pops through time and space and takes people on great adventures, then they have a great time. But if you really think back and you think of all of the danger and all the peril they've put in, and look at the casualties, look at Adric, look at Perry, sort of, and all of these different sacrifices that he's made just because he took them along with him, when you think back over all that, from that standpoint, it made me rethink Doctor Who. And I almost think now when I go back and watch classic episodes, I won't think of them the same again.
The same way.
And you're almost grateful that he did what he did to Sarah Jane. I mean, I was mad the first time that he basically pushed her out the door without so much as a goodbye. And now I'm almost grateful for that, because look where Sarah Jane went from there on.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
not a lot of companions got that opportunity.
So do you think they're setting up an Amy and Rory spin-off since
No,
Sarah
absolutely
Jane?
not. No, absolutely
Okay.
not. No. What I think they're doing is they're setting it up. Karen has said she's coming back next series. I think what they're doing is they're setting it up as a Amy on and again, off again. Rory and Amy have their own life, but they get to spend some time with the Doctor here and there. I think is where they're going with it. I don't know why I think that, but that's just the
you don't
impression
think there will
I get.
be a constant companion?
Yes, I think there will be, but it won't be Amy and Rory. That's
Do you think
what
it'll
I'm
be
saying.
Craig?
That would be so cool.
That would be awesome.
Craig's pushing for it.
Craig could do it.
I am championing right now Craig for companion.
When they walked into the room and we saw the Weeping Angels, what was the first thought? Whose room do you think they were in?
Amy's.
My
You went to Amy?
my first thought was
Whose room did you think they were in?
my initial thought was, looking at that group that was in there, my initial thought was Amy.
Okay.
And then dude went and hid in the closet. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, well, maybe it is him.
Now,
I
this
didn't
was
really
before-
catch up on it.
This was
until
before
later.
the cloister bill. Yes, it was.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So my first thought was, well, this is the Doctor's room. But then I thought that's kind of a letdown, because the Doctor, while I think
wish
he
we
has,
would have seen it
I think
this
he has a
time.
bit of a fear of the Angels. The Angels have really been one of his most serious adversaries, especially in the most difficult adversaries, because so I thought, okay, maybe, but that's kind of weak.
You would
And then
think the
they
Daleks
address
would
it
pop
in
up.
the room that Amy thinks it's hers, and I thought, okay, that's a little more appropriate. That's okay.
Considering the two-parter, yeah.
And so,
that makes sense.
I'm ready to accept that. And then they do the little double take again, and you find out that it's actually Gibbus's room. And I thought, wow, how neat that they went to this trifecta here. They set you up, try to, it's the angel, so it must be the Doctor. No, that's too simple. Then they go to Amy, and then you go, okay, I can buy that because of circumstances. Oh, no, it's Gibbus. Oh, so what's Amy's room? And so you wonder.
Oh, yeah.
And then
then
give
you
us
see it.
well, and then to give us the Amy room glimpse, and you see her, and you thought, of course that's it. That you've the waiting. That's her fear. Is the fact
Okay,
that
I didn't get
he's
that
never
until
gonna
the
come-
end.
He's never going to come back.
He's going to leave her again,
Exactly.
or she's going to be stuck waiting.
And and then the really cool one is that the Doctor's room is number 11.
Yes, that was
That was so cool.
that was geek out moment.
Yeah,
I was
it totally
like,
was.
so appropriate. And then when he opens the door, what do you think was in there? Because all you hear is the cloister bell from the TARDIS, and he goes, "Of course." And he closes the door, and you don't get to see
He
it.
says, "Of course, it's you,"
It's you. Okay, yeah.
which
Ooh, okay, yeah. I didn't.
which leads me to believe it is a person
Not Idris, maybe.
and not a.
not
Idris.
a
Well, now,
losing the TARDIS.
I'm wondering if they were going there with the cloister bell is clearly heard. And where do you hear the cloister bell when there's danger? Where do you hear it?
in the TARDIS.
So whatever he's seeing is an image in the TARDIS, I assume. Is it the TARDIS itself, or is it someone in the TARDIS? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I
What if it's the TARDIS leaving him?
Could be.
I could totally see
Although
that
I don't
as
know why the
Doctor's
TARDIS
greatest
would be...
fear.
Now, the Cloister Bell is the TARDIS warning the Doctor of impending danger.
Oh.
So the TARDIS would not be warning him that the TARDIS is leaving. So that's the only reason
Unless
I like that. I like the idea.
Unless she's leaving him mid-vortex. That would be quite the danger.
That would be dangerous, I suppose.
Maybe it's an automatic alarm
I
signal.
also
as opposed to...
absolutely love that they left us on the dark of what he saw. Now, I
wish I knew.
I wish I knew too, and I would love for them to explore it at the end of the series. Maybe we'll get to know what was in that room. But I love that for this specific episode that they left it alone. They said, "Okay, this is a little tease." I like
See,
that aspect.
if they had done 2 parts, that's where they could have explored it.
See, I'm really, really torn because I agree. The fanboy in me is like, I want to know what was in the room. The
Award-winning writer?
the Doctor Who appreciation part of me is like, I'm so glad we don't know. Mm-hmm. That's one of those things
I almost assumed it was a version of himself.
That's what I thought as he saw himself. Of course, it's you, because the
dandy.
We've experienced that in
Amy's Choice.
Yeah, even in Amy's Choice with the Dream Lord. Yeah, so
maybe that's what he saw.
Could be
that he was the part of him that he wasn't
saw
fond
that
of.
Part of him in that reflection,
his
there
darkness,
at
or the Valiard, or any number. Maybe he saw Shaka Doctor.
Are you just going to give away the entire plot of Time Lord every week, or Trial of the Time Lord every week?
He doesn't know what it was from until you called that out.
Wait, I missed
every week.
Shaka Doctors and Trial of the Time Lord?
No.
I think
he keeps making references all the time to
I
a certain
don't keep
thing
making
that
references to a certain thing.
I who have spoiled things for Keith throughout the whole time, have never said that, and then you keep bringing it up twice.
Never pointed out where it was from, and now you're making a huge deal about it, and he's lost.
Doesn't matter. As soon as he shows up at the beginning of that series, you've already ruined it.
No, I have not.
Yes, you have.
I guarantee
I
you.
missed the name he said. So.
Anyway.
See?
So,
I'm sorry. Most of the time when you guys talk to who and I don't recognize it, I just kind of tune out.
It's like Ethiopia. It's just a series of clicks and whistles.
Yeah, pretty much. I just Charlie Brown.
That's exactly what it would have been until you called attention to it.
I just
Yes.
kind of
No.
tune out and don't pay attention because I don't want to be spoiled,
Anyway.
and I have no idea what you're talking about.
Anyway,
anyways.
Sean's just mad because I called him out for spoiling something.
I didn't spoil anything.
Well, let me let you guys talk a little bit because I feel like I'm dominating. Because you guys
brought
know
up-
me. When I love a story,
brought up-
I just gush over it, and I love this story.
You brought up a lot of points that I liked about this episode. I don't think there was anything I didn't like, except for the fact of leaving Amy and Rory, because I'm not ready to leave them yet.
Did you notice their door?
Mm-mm.
The door to their house was TARDIS blue.
What was it? I didn't.
Ooh,
know.
I
It
didn't
was
notice that.
totally TARDIS. Like they had a blue house, but the door was TARDIS blue.
Yeah,
Because the house was
like
light
that.
blue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
thought
is.
that was. I
It
thought
is.
that was really cool. I loved the bit at the opening where Amy's giving him a hard time and describing this planet of the giants. That's cool. I want to see the planet of the giants now.
Yeah.
'Cause and the one last week on Onomatopoeia, whatever it was. That one.
It wasn't that, but okay.
The gleaming spires and the giant waterfalls. And
Yeah.
I want to see the rest of that planet as opposed to just the hospital waiting room. I loved the hotel. Hotels, I've decided, are instinctively creepy anyway.
Yeah.
Not just our association with things like The Shining.
No.
But just the fact that here's a building where people come and then they go. And it's a warehouse. It's a holding facility. It's a storage room for people. It's just creepy. There's just something weird about that.
I
That
don't
somebody
know.
else has slept in this bed. Somebody else has
Yeah.
used this toilet. How many people have used this bed and this toilet and this
I
room?
don't
How many
know
people have
that
walked
that's
these
what-
hallways?
I don't know that that's what creeps me out, but I know that when I walk
I
into a
think what's-
hotel, especially late at night,
The
when
emptiness.
It's empty. It's
Yeah.
so
It's-
empty.
it's
and
such
you
a
know,
big building, but
you
it's
know
empty.
the entire hotel on a busy weekend is full, but it's so quiet and you don't hear people, and all of the corridors are so empty. And that's what's creepy to me.
And there's a lot
I
of
agree.
long corridors. There's a long
Mm-hmm.
of it's just an overwhelming sense of vastness
because there's places you never go in that hotel,
that
and
that
you know they're
serves-
there.
I don't know. They're full of ghosts. I don't mean like they're haunted. I mean like the ghosts of everybody who has moved through that place.
Yeah.
They're still there, lingering for some reason, doing so. It's just
It's
hotels. in
places
general
with
is
the most
creepy.
traffic that people don't stay long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Airports, I think, can be a little creepy too at times.
Airports are so
They're
bright-
busy. They're
bright
busy
and
enough
busy,
that you kind of
I
lose
would
that.
consider an airport creepy, like in Langoliers, if it were empty.
If it were empty, yeah, it would
Yeah.
give it, that would lend a lot of creepiness to it. But that's probably because you expect it to be busy and it's
Yeah,
not. So.
exactly.
I
Well,
just
we flew into Providence, Rhode Island one time late, and their airport closes. Their airport closes at 10 o'clock. We flew in at 11:30. Now, it's not that when you fly in there, it's closed and they lock you in. You can still get out, but nobody can come in. So, with the exception of any other planes that are landing, it's just you. And there was like maybe 10 of us on this plane. And we landed and we walked, and it was dead. There was nothing. All the shops are closed. The place is closed. It's quiet. There's no. They don't even have the PA. You know, if you're in an airport and you get into those little pockets where it's not as busy, sometimes you'll notice the music that's
Yeah.
there, but you don't always notice it. It was deafeningly quiet, and the only
it's
people,
like KCI.
yeah. Well, KCI is on the verge of that. Although there's always people at the ticket counters. There's always people there.
Depending on when you
but
go there, isn't
there's
it? But-
people there, but there's not a lot of traffic, and
Yeah.
it's exactly. But this is what Providence was, and that was eerie to walk through Providence because it's such a vast, giant airport with nothing going on. And
I think
it's
that
it's very
exactly.
Langoliers. It's
I think that hits the nail on the head. Is any of these? We watch a post-apocalyptic movie and they go to Times Square.
Yeah, there you go.
And there's
It's-
nobody in Times
Yes.
Square, and it just gives you that unsettling feeling. Airports, busy freeways that don't have any people on them, no cars, movie theaters.
Places you expect people.
Places you expect people. I feel like I'm playing Pyramid. What are things where you expect to see people? Ding. But when you have that setup, that this is meant for this, and then there isn't. Hotels are the only ones, though, that you frequent on a fairly regular basis that appear to be
feel that
empty.
way,
Because
yes.
everybody's cloistered away in their
There's
little
lots
rooms.
of rooms, so there should be lots of people, but there's not. you know.
Because everybody's in their little compartments, so you don't see them. But it gives that
When you're-
impression of
And
this
you're
isn't
supposed
right.
to be quiet because you don't want to disturb anybody.
Yeah.
So it's so quiet, and there's not going to be anything going on in them halls because they're trying to keep it quiet for the guests.
Trying to
Yeah.
be respectful. So.
I loved the. So there was
We got way off.
from it, but I loved that. Hotels are creepy, and then to fill this creepy hotel with creepy things. I'm sorry, clown, scary.
Yeah.
I feel like every single one of these doors that was opened was mine. I mean, quite literally.
How's it going? Don't talk to the clown.
Don't talk to the clown. we had the clown. We had the weeping angels. We had disapproving father. We had. I don't know how the gorilla would scare me, but okay. There were a lot of scary
It was
things.
terrific stuff. It
Yeah.
was terrific
Oh,
stuff.
just the ideas of it. The idea that these rooms are filled with fears in order to make you have faith in this minotaur instead of whatever your faith belief is. Wow.
Yeah, it's a really deep episode, which is the other thing I liked about it.
The gym teacher.
Yeah,
the
the
half-naked gym
The
teacher.
half-naked gym
yeah.
teacher. It could have come across as a one-off.
Oh yeah, it totally
It very
felt that
easily
way.
could have, and some people I think will argue that it is.
I
disagree.
I think it gives the air of one. Yes.
It has the trappings of
The
a one-off,
beginnings of.
but
It's the beginning and the end is what it is.
Well, it's not just even that. This one to me, and these are the types of episodes that I love. They continue to build on the overall mythos. They continue to give us hints to the arc, even if it's not the necessary story arc.
Well,
character
We're
development.
still
This-
getting character
well-
development. We're still moving forward. It's not just a random adventure somewhere.
Despite the fact that we get a lot of character development on the characters that are in the story, the most character development we get, or the most insight we get to anybody, is the Doctor. In this
Absolutely.
and it's so subtly done.
And Amy and Rory,
Well,
but especially the Doctor.
Especially
and
the
it's
Doctor.
so subtly done that you don't realize it's smacking you in the face.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing about it.
Until
Yeah.
after you finished it.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think of the Minotaur?
Or the close cousin of the Nine.
That redeemed it.
That was
Actually,
cool.
that was
I thought the effects and the suits on it was really well done.
I like the fact that
fantastic.
I like the fact that they didn't.
CGI it?
I like the fact that they didn't CGI it. I like the fact that we spent a lot of time not
Not
seeing it.
Not
yes.
seeing-
That's-
Even up to
Monsters are done much better that way.
when he's in the room, the beauty shop, whatever it was. Even at that point, you never
All the mirrors.
really got a clear
Yeah.
shot. Even though there it is, it's standing right in front of you, but it's behind the waterfall, or it's in a mirror,
reflection
or
of a mirror. It's
a
just a
piece
piece
of
of
it.
it, yeah.
I thought that was really well done. But then once they established Minotaur, then it was okay to show it to us. I loved that aspect of it. I thought that was really cool.
I agree.
Well, I like the fact that they related to it as a Minotaur too. They said, somebody says the fact that it's this Minotaur, and the doctor.
Yeah, the doctor calls it a Minotaur.
Yeah, he almost qualifies that. So that was nice.
Well, and it's also, I mean,
Amy calls it a Minotaur, and he qualifies.
Yeah,
that,
well,
yes.
and then later he says Minotaur.
Yeah,
he comes out and says.
Well, because he's addressing it to them, so they relate to.
Right, so that's what it's going to be.
Absolutely.
But it's the Minotaur in the maze.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there totally
exactly
makes sense. We've got a maze. There's got to be a Minotaur in it. Okay, I'm with you there.
I never thought of that until you mentioned that.
Really,
it adds science to
it
the
does.
myth.
It does add science to it.
I thought, did you kind of expect to know what it looked like, minus the horns from the trailers from we've seen?
Mm,
just because we get the one full face shot in the eye when he's looking.
I have to admit, the giant eye slit opening. This is what I thought was the face of Bo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because I called that out. I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But
anyway, you're talking. You keep going.
I love the architecture of this hotel too. Mm-hmm. They were really, really proud of that staircase.
Oh, it was really neat.
But justifiably.
Yeah.
As soon as I walked onto the location and went, that's where we're shooting this. Everything has to happen around that stairwell.
It's not Gothic though, but it still has that.
It's got that weird 60s Art Deco feel to it.
It has that 60s Art Deco never-ending feel to it.
Yes, exactly. Agreed.
Although I felt like they may have cheated a little bit trying to make that staircase feel like it went on forever, even though it felt fairly obvious to me that it was only like 4 stories maybe. But
yeah.
I'll forgive that.
I think they put an optical effect in there in order to get it to look.
When you stop and look at this episode from a technical standpoint of production, you see the same corridor over and over.
Yeah.
You've seen the staircase that's not as big as it seems. But when you're immersed in the story, you totally buy it.
You do. You totally buy all that stuff, and I like that.
That to me is a great example of good storytelling.
Yes.
When you get sucked in, that you don't care or completely buy that this is a different corridor or this is a huge stairwell because the story is told so well. Mm-hmm. That's a great example of good storytelling.
I loved the characters, the group of people that we had set up. Although I was glad that what's his name?
Joe.
I was glad that Joe went early.
Well,
and I loved the way in which they dealt with Joe. And okay, that was the other thing. The mannequins. Mm-hmm. That's creepy.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people that have a fear of ventriloquist dummies.
Even though they're just in a room laughing, when they walked into the room and all of the heads swiveled and the talking stopped, the chattering stopped, the laughing stopped, and everybody.
What I like about that as well is we've established this guy as a gambler, as a guy that plays the odds, a guy that and that his fear is ventriloquist dummies. And I thought that was funny because this is a guy that probably spends a lot of time in Vegas or Atlantic City, and what are one of the most primary acts in Vegas, Atlantic City,
of
with the exception of magic artists, is ventriloquism.
Yeah,
and I thought that was really cool. That was neat for that to be his fear.
Yeah.
So,
for me, this felt a little bit like the setup for Voyage of the Damned, which you haven't seen yet. But just from the standpoint that we're given a group of characters and go survive the night. I mean, that kind of old school 10 Little Indians kind of feel to it.
An Agatha Christie feel to it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It really did.
I agree with the Agatha Christie. I guess I wouldn't have associated with Voyage of the Damned, but you're right. But I didn't grab that.
Well, just that we instead of giving a lot of Doctor Who, you get
Voyage of the Damned feels more like a Poseidon adventure.
Well, it does.
Because in the sense that you've got this number of people that there's been a disaster and they're the survivors.
It does. It's totally a disaster flick, and then you're wondering which guest star is going to buy it next. But I love disaster flicks.
This one is because they've already dropped them in, and there's been no disaster. That's what I like about this one.
Yeah, I agree. And the Rita,
love her.
I love the fact. I'm going to talk just a little bit on religion. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that they made her of Muslim faith.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I love the fact that they went where they went with her character. That she was strong-willed, that she was opinionated, that she would have been the perfect companion. And at the end, she is, I almost say clairvoyant. She's cognitive enough of what's happening that she refuses the help, and her one request is, don't watch me lose my faith.
Yeah.
I mean, that just speaks volumes for her character.
Sure.
It's not that she's making this grand sacrifice and that she's being a martyr. I mean, she really doesn't care that much about that. She is, but that's not what she's building it up to be. It's not a big heroic moment for her. It's a, please don't watch this. And that just, wow, I was blown away.
It's humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really blown away. Now, of course, there was the other part of me that was screaming, just go back to the doctor. He will protect you.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't save Howie. And that was one thing that the writer in me understands. That the Doctor Who fan in me is going, you left Howie alone with that guy who's already said once, let's throw him to the wolves? Mm-hmm. What did you think was going to happen? I can tell you what's going to happen. He's going to throw him to the wolves. He's going to let him go. And Howie was so... I want to go.
That's also...
Let me go.
That was also another thing that lends to the discovery or the exploration of the Doctor's character, is that the Doctor sometimes puts too much faith in others.
Yeah.
He puts too much faith in the fact, because he set him up by saying, this is going to be your moment. This is going to be, instead of cowardice, you're going to be, very brave, very courageous. And so it's like the Doctor bought his own propaganda. And that's what did him in. And that's absolutely right. And that also lends to that God complex thing, is that the Doctor so often thinks he's right, that in this situation it was an illustration to him that he made the wrong choice there. And I think that was calculated in the writing of this, is another way to show us how the Doctor has this God complex, and that this was the episode that tore him down. That's really what it did. Even though there's only a handful of people in peril, he could not save any of them, with the exception of the one guy, the coward, that the reason why he survives is because they are cowards. And why did he survive? Because he let Howie go. Yeah. I mean, they explored that all the way to the end.
That's the other thing, I think, disaster movie wise. There's always that you get a group of people together and you set it up, and okay, who's going to buy it next, and who's going to get out of this, and you immediately start having people that you root for. I like this guy. I like this guy, and that character, he was fun. He was the comic relief. He was this, but you're really not supposed to like him.
Right.
He's got these failings that we're all thinking to ourselves, if we were in that situation, we would not succumb to that. Mm-hmm. We're going to be the perfect companion. We would hope. We're going to be the people standing there. And of course, as a viewer, your trust is in the Doctor. Mm-hmm. You do have that faith. Right. So realistically, we probably would have been the first to go, because we would have had the strongest faith in him. We'd have been there with Amy. But then as people start falling and dying and getting killed and whatever, you're kind of like, oh, no, not... Aww. Well, don't take my... Aww.
Yeah, exactly.
And you get to the end, you're like, don't leave him! Really? And, he's got that great, can I get a lift?
Yeah.
Just the next solar system would be fine.
Just wherever.
Just wherever. The effects in this one, I thought were outstanding. The fact that it was a holodeck. Well, essentially, that the entire hotel was a holodeck, and the way it dissolved and the tiles kind of fell apart. That was a nifty effect.
Well, it is, because this episode is not heavily special effects laden. I mean, a lot of that is done with optical effects. Well, a lot of that is done with camera tricks and throughout the entire portion, and practical effects throughout the entire hotel scene. And then when it does dissolve and it digitally flips away, and we see the holodeck look of things, then it's very digital at that point. And that was I agree, the effect on that was fantastic.
It was almost Tron.
It just all falls apart
the way it was
there on the grid.
And once again, it totally leads credence to the science aspects of it, that there's this creepy hotel and the walls can change and things move around. Well, this is why it literally is.
It's the Matrix.
Yeah, basically.
Well, it literally is a holodeck, because that's one of the tricks they use in Star Trek, is that it can make things appear far away that aren't, and on and on and on. I loved that. And I loved the Minotaur's last line.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
That's the most important part of this episode, as far as the...
Did you write it down?
Yeah, I did. Most certainly did.
Because I don't remember it. I remember it being very impactful.
It was an ancient creature, drenched in the blood of the innocent, drifting through space, through an endless shifting maze. For such a creature, death would be a gift. And then the Doctor says to the Minotaur, and accepted, sleep well, And the Minotaur says, "I wasn't talking about me." That was, I'm getting chills just now. Just recounting that. That was incredible.
Such a powerful line.
It was. Again, another piece that they didn't smack you in the face with giving you these little clues about the Doctor's character. It was these little subtleties that all through there, until the very end, you don't realize, oh my gosh, this entire thing is built around the Doctor's character and how he perceives things and how things are perceived about him, and that was so incredible. I think that's what I love the most about this story.
Do you
is
think
the fact
this
that
is the one where the Doctor falls?
You're stroking out again over there.
I've just had an apostrophe.
How about Epiphany?
Epiphany.
Yeah, that too. I figured it out. I think.
You want to let us in on that?
No, I need another envelope because I'm not saying anything. Oh,
you got 2 weeks to be proven
left. Yeah, so
till you're proven wrong.
Oh, but it works.
Your envelope now?
No, not the current one. Well, I don't know. That one might still work. I still think you might bring that in. But this, wow, maybe. Okay, sorry. What?
No, I was going.
You better write this down.
Going back to the fact that the Doctor's the characters explored so much here, and without smacking you in the face with it. It's so subtly.
But they do
explored.
smack you in the face with it.
It
That's
isn't
the
until
genius
the
of it.
end.
They smack you in the face with it, but you don't realize you're getting smacked in the face.
It's just like there's this wash of, oh my gosh, all of this has been a reflection of the Doctor, not anybody else here. That everything is so secondary to that fact that even though that's not the intention of this place, it's not the intention of this prison, but all of that comes forth as a result of their landing here. Yeah. That's what's so incredible
just
about it.
Even
or being brought here.
In my opinion, even if it were a one-off, we didn't explore the Doctor as much as we did in this episode. Even if he didn't leave Amy and Rory, just the idea of this prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the
I would have liked this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Good concept that
I totally agree.
There's nothing wrong.
There
with
are layers on this episode. There's layers of the fact that this is just a one-off in this prison. It's just the Minotaur and the Maze, and then there's another layer where we're exploring Amy's relationship with the Doctor and Rory's non-fake. And then you've got another layer where we've got these characters and the Doctor feels the need to save them. The Doctor is going to save them through this whole thing. And even if he's in there getting picked off.
And another instance of the Doctor lies. No one else dies today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that was the Doctor having faith in himself.
Here's the one thing that I didn't like. When the Doctor is explaining, I believe it's when he's explaining to Amy that she has too much faith in him. That it's your faith in me that brought us here. They cut to kind of a mid shot, and it's the Doctor and Amy in the foreground. And she gets up and crosses and comes into camera with the Doctor, and she's standing there saying, what are you talking about? It's your faith in me. And Rory's in the background. And then they cut to a shot of Rory kind of sitting there like, yeah. And do
you think Rory figured it out long before?
Well, no. It felt like we're doing yet another one of those, here comes the wedge between Rory and Amy. It felt like there was almost that romantic implication there.
Too forced. Yeah.
Now, they fixed it later when... and now I'm going to blank out on what it was. They went back and there was a separate look that she went directly to Rory, and they had their thing, and the Doctor was completely out of it, and it was real quick right after it. It wasn't even like you had to wait for it. It was almost an immediate fix of that, and I was like, oh, okay, we didn't go there, because I was really concerned there for a minute that they were going to try and bring that up again.
Let me point this out.
I guess I never felt that, because I instantly thought that Amy viewed the Doctor, now that Rory is such an important figure of her life, and the girl who waited proved that.
Yeah.
That she viewed the Doctor as more of a god, as a hero, as a superhero, as someone infallible, that not so much a romantic interest, but on a pedestal in general.
Okay, here's why the girl that Waited was placed correctly by moving it to this point, because we got the most development between Rory and Amy's characters and to understand their love for each other the most in this episode. And you notice that this followed this up, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Rory keeps dropping hints about things that he expects Amy to do, and she doesn't do it. And one of the best examples I have is when
he flinches when she doesn't hit him.
Yeah, and he says, every time the doctor gets pally with someone, I have an overwhelming urge to notify their next of kin. And she kind of laughs, and he does a little flinch because he thinks he's going to hit her, but she doesn't. This is them subtly adding to us that the dynamic has changed between the doctor, because in that instance he's flinching because there's always this reflex of her to defend the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe you just said that about the doctor.
Yeah.
Smack. Even though she still thinks it's funny, she might smack him because it's like, hey, don't talk about the doctor that way. She doesn't do it now. And there's little hints in this throughout the whole thing. In fact, is it this one where he gets knocked out and he comes up and he says, "Who hit me? Was it Amy?" I mean,
yeah, when the Minotaur runs past him.
He's still expecting Amy to do those things, and she's not. And that's because she is subtly breaking ties with the doctor.
She's growing.
She's growing as a character, and she's making her ultimate choice between the doctor and Rory. And these are just little subtle things. And I think that's why it works more now that you put it in this episode, because of the fact that now the doctor has to say, don't have so much faith in me. It's easier for Amy to disconnect that faith now.
Yeah.
Because we've come this far in the season. And so it makes it easier for that to happen, because I think if it had been earlier in the series, when she still has this my raggedy doctor, my doctor on a pedestal, it would have made it more difficult for her to release that faith in him.
Oh, yeah.
And so this works at this point. And that's why I think Girl Who Waited sets this episode up very nicely.
It does.
And so it was a good placement for this episode.
She puts, ever since the good man goes to war, she started putting her faith in Rory.
Exactly. Because he's the only one that really hasn't let her down yet.
Yeah. What was it that when they were standing in the hallway after Howie had died, and Rory has the discussion with the doctor about the speech impediment, he says something almost under his breath, and the doctor says, "What?" And he says nothing. And I
can't remember.
I didn't
what it was,
catch it.
I remember your reference.
But it almost felt like it should have been like you're going to die in that lake. What? Oh, nothing. I mean, it kind of had that kind of feel to it, but I don't know what it was that was said.
Yeah,
and I didn't get a chance to go back to
right.
it. I was hoping you guys would know so that
I can't remember, but I remember the reference.
I'll have to pull it up later and rewatch. But that's my only problem with it, and it's a tiny little one. And I was so glad that they fixed it and didn't go into that whole romantic breakup thing again, because I'm tired of that.
They need to get away from that. I agree.
I guess considering the title of the episode, and since we haven't dealt with that romantic aspect of her and the doctor in a while, I didn't even think about it.
I feel like they keep throwing in our face even Girl Who Waited. It felt like there was that she was waiting on the doctor as opposed to Rory, but then we see that she had the robot.
Keith made a good point. Keith made a good point that they're really the only way they try to telegraph that to us is the fact that she writes, "Doctor, I'm here" on the door. He kind of pointed to that last week, but that's really the only aspect of that that we see, that she's waiting on the doctor to save her. Because, in fact, she tells Rory in the little two-way, "Make sure you come for me." And she tells Rory that, and that's before she writes "Doctor" on the wall.
Yeah.
So it was at that moment that I saw that in that episode that I went, okay, the dynamic is starting to change here. And this really cements it as we go along. And I like how they've paced this out throughout the outline that they have for this season. Is that it's working well that way.
It's working really well. I have a question real quick. A friend of mine who just got caught up with this season asked me this weekend if he wanted to know if I think we've seen the last of old Amy from The Girl Who Waited. And he said, the reason I ask is, he says, obviously we are led to believe that timeline has dissolved and that she is no more.
Didn't we talk about this a little bit?
But he said, I would not be at all surprised if she comes back to wind up being behind all of it. And I went,
I didn't expound.
"Ooh."
See, I wish I'd have brought that up last week because I didn't expound on it. But I had.
You think old Amy? Well, no.
I think I had said, because we were talking about how, because you even said, well, that timeline dissolved, and I said, well, but we just see it fade away. We don't necessarily know what happens.
We
there.
don't know what happens
And the
because
fact
she's
that
outside, the TARDIS
and
leaves.
the fact that Amy at the end of the episode says, "Where is she?" and they leave it unaddressed. I said last week, it wouldn't surprise me if we see old Amy come back in the
What
other
if
one.
old Amy is Eye Patch Lady?
Well, eye patch lady or in the astronaut suit. I've said all along that there's a possibility that Amy might be in that suit.
That's
because of Good Man Goes to War, because of her animosity and snapping at the Doctor.
And that totally
comes to a
feeds
point.
into it
Yeah.
because at that point, who hates the Doctor more than anybody else?
Amy.
But the girl who waited. She waited for him as a kid, and he
Yeah.
screwed her over. She waited for him for 36
And
years
that
as an
makes-
adult, and he screwed her over again. He left without her. She would be in the perfect position to try and set all this up.
That makes
and-
this
and
episode work even.
Turn all of this on
That
him.
makes this episode work even better because we get that moment. We're reminded of that moment that Amy put so much faith in the Doctor, and the Doctor has disappointed her so many times. We get a little reminder, so alternate universe Amy coming back won't be such a unbelievable. That's
Exactly.
not right. We're still setting up that.
And it does totally
Disconnect.
fit in with the entire kind of theme that has run throughout this season, which is family and duplicates. We've had
two Amy's.
we've had two Amy's. Well, even going all the way back to space.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We've had Amy duplicated before.
Maybe that was Moffat telegraphing the whole next
Maybe
series.
it was.
Thing.
I would love that. That would be so awesome. We've had the Flesh, obviously, is
The
a
two
direct
Doctors.
duplicate. We've had the Doctors come back. I mean, there has just been every episode has had this opportunity to throw something at us.
We've
it feels
had
like.
we've had two versions of the Doctor in the beginning. So we've had an old Doctor,
Yes.
and
And a time difference between
right.
the two of them.
We also had Canton twice. We had an old Canton
Yes.
who was there for the end, and we were there. Then we were introduced to young
We've had
Canton.
Young and Old River.
Yes,
Yeah.
Well, several different versions.
Several
of River.
different versions of River.
we've had duplicate Doctors. We had duplicate Amy's because we had Amy that dissolved on the bridge because she wasn't really
Yeah.
there the whole time.
Yeah.
We've had. It seems like we just recently revisited another. What was the
Wasn't it
episode?
old Amy?
Night Terrors. No, we didn't have two versions there. What was the one before that? What was? That was.
Let's Go
Hitler.
Hitler.
Oh, that was the other. We had duplicates in that because we had the ship that could.
That could become a duplicate.
Which
Yeah.
something
like
I
that.
was going to bring up. Do you wonder if that's another red herring that a lot of people thought maybe this is the ship is really
What comes back and kills
the
the Doctor.
although we see the Doctor regenerate. Well, no, but what I'm thinking is that maybe we're talking about duplicates, and it's almost like he set up ways for that not to really be the
Be the
Doctor,
Doctor.
Yeah.
and one being the duplicate, and one being possibly now the ship. That somehow they figure out how to make the ship look like the Doctor. But what dissolves that theory
Is the
is the fact that he starts to regenerate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what, and that's the frustrating thing is that every red herring that he's thrown out there as a potential.
also-
Now we fixed it.
He's made it implausible as well.
We can't
Yeah.
because we go back to that, but then he starts to regenerate. How do you get around that? And I don't know yet. But yeah, as soon as
I almost still believe Moffat when he says that is the Doctor.
Yeah, well, he has said that, yeah, but he's also said a lot of things that Sean pointed out a couple weeks ago that
Moffat lies. Did you happen to see the preview for this coming episode when he says no classic monsters return?
you guys
Oh.
got anything to
Guess what? A classic
against
monster returns.
you guys got
Cybermen.
anything to say about this one before we move on? We need to wrap up here.
Fantastic episode.
It was
Absolutely
terrific. My favorite of the series. This series, for sure.
I don't know if I can go that far.
This series, as in season 6,
As in season
I need
6
to go
for now,
back and
series 6
rewatch
for
them
now.
because I really, really liked
And
Doctor's Wife.
I'm
the Doctor's Wife was
I
fantastic.
love the Doctor's Wife.
I have a feeling
It's-
I'm going to love next week's episode.
it really kind of got bumped down to his number 2 for me. On
I,
this
I
season.
really liked Good Man Goes to War.
Good Man Go to War was
I
good.
mean,
but
with the exception
is-
of the Rebel Flesh, which again weren't bad episodes, they were just kind of meh.
we're going to do series review. So we'll,
Yeah, we haven't had a bad episode
Well,
yet.
not
No,
Knock on
I
wood.
would agree.
with the exception of last week.
I would agree with Sean.
What's coming up next week? What are we doing for Friday night?
Next week for Friday Night Who, we go back to the Key to Time for the fifth segment, The Power of Kroll, Kroll, not
You still got the wiki up
Krull.
over there, so we can. What's next week's episode?
Closing time.
Closing time
is the
is,
return of Craig.
The Return of Craig.
So, will our theme song next week be the Semisonic song?
No, because I don't like it's overused. So that's what we got coming up.
and that totally fits in with the I work in a shop now. Shops are cool.
Ooh, you're right.
It's closing time.
We'll address this next week, but there's a possibility that our episode 2 weeks from now could be delayed. I'm going on holiday, so...
I would say at this point there's a
I'm
very
not going to
strong
Spain.
possibility of
Yeah, but
We
hadn't discussed whether these guys were going to try to venture on their own. Or we were
that. Glenn's not going to be here. He's going on holiday.
I am.
He's going to Albuquerque. Albuquerque.
Took a wrong turn at Albuquerque.
A-L-B-U-R. Kirky.
That's a
But he-
very obscure Weird Al reference for some of you.
That's right.
So he's not going to be here, and he kind of gave us the, well, you guys can go ahead and record without me. And then we realized this is the finale of season 6. This is kind
And
of
the finale of Key to Time.
well, finale Key to Time less so, but finale of Key. I mean, think about it. This is what Moffat has said. All of the questions from 5 will be answered
I'm
in
not
6.
disappointed that I won't be here for what is the last one?
Armageddon
Factor.
Don't
Another-
don't spoilers or
I think
anything.
it's
or-
about every other Key at Time do I like.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, but you said you weren't a fan of Power Kroll though either.
No,
so.
I do like Power.
Oh, do you
I
like
don't
her?
like Armageddon Factor. That's
I always liked Kroll. I always
Kroll
thought Kroll
I
was
like,
cool.
yeah.
But we just kind of decided that we didn't feel like we could press ahead with the finale of season 6 and wrap up all of the stuff with the crack and the exploding TARDIS and the silence and all that stuff
really,
that
you think all
has
this
been
is going to
promised.
resolve at the end of season 6?
Moffat lies.
We're doing a wrap up
But-
later, so let's not go on to it.
Anyway, we
2 weeks from
we
now,
we
we may
will
be
likely delay that recording, and we apologize to everybody who's going to be on edge waiting for us. But
Unless we can work it out that I can do it while I'm on holiday. So
we've decided we're going to wait for Glenn. So if you have a problem with that, you can address your feedback to Vortex Keith.
What? That's Glenn at travelingthevortex.com.
let's send it my way. So
It's your fault you're going on holiday.
but it's your fault that we're recording late. So,
But I
No,
wouldn't
it's your
record
fault
late
that
if
you're
you
out of
were.
town.
I wouldn't record late if you were
told
going on
that
holiday.
You should record.
Then send that to Sean at travelingthevortex.com. I was fine with Skyping somebody in and leaving Sean or Glenn
Just
in the
copy
dark.
us all. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for us this week, guys. We're going to wrap it up here. So until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith. Peace in.
Good night, everyone.
Cheers.
Relax at night, man. We are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.